Hello, gamers! Welcome to the final week of the VML Season 8. My name's Haiyue. I'm here with the wonderful Filipa, and we are sponsored, of course, by Wizards of the Coast and Good Luck High Five. Filipa, we've made it. It's the end of the road.
We did it, and it was so exciting. I had so much fun playing and casting this season. We got to see so many amazing decks, and I'm really happy we got here.
Yeah, I cannot wait to see who is going to be crowned champion tonight. And alongside that, of course, for our awesome audience, we have a lot of magic coming up. I'll just tell everyone a little bit about what we're going to be doing today. So first of all, we are going to see one match from the top 8, a quarterfinal. That was played earlier in the week, so that's going to be recorded footage. And then we will be moving on to the live semifinals and finals. So the 4 players who have made the top 4 are all kind of sitting at home in front of their computers, plugged in, ready to go. And we will be having those last 3 matches live on stream later on in the broadcast. Also, later on in the broadcast, we're going to be bringing you a couple of very interesting and very exciting announcements. So make sure you stay with us throughout the stream because, yeah, the little mystery
the background effects.
I love it. Yeah, for those of you who are maybe looking forward to what the VML is doing next, or maybe thinking about what's coming up in the next few months, make sure you stick around with us and you can hear those announcements later on in the stream. So, Filipa, the players, they've been playing for 9 weeks now. We had 7 weeks of round robin play, 128 players. They were divided into their divisions, 16 divisions, the biggest VML season ever. And then from the player perspective, what's it like to make it through that grueling battle and then make it all the way to this playoffs?
It is so intense. Like, I've played it since season 3, and I've played in a lot of seasons, and this season has been super intense. The VML championship, the invites to the regional championship, there are high stakes in game here for our players. I made for the first time top 32, and then I got completely crushed and ambled. But let me tell you, this season has been intense. I really love about the VML is that every opponent is so kind. And I had such a great experience. I met a lot of new people, and I am really excited to see who made it into the top 8 today.
Let's have a reminder of the prizes that you mentioned a little bit just now and what we're playing for. So $7,000 prize pool, that's a nice chunk of cash. I believe everybody who is in the top 16 has already cashed. But players are playing all the way up to the top prize and regional championship invites to the top 8. So everybody who is playing today has already, in fact, qualified for their regional championships wherever they live in the world, which is a completely unique system. You will only find that here at the VML, and the top 8 is going to earn a spot in the first ever VML championships, which will be happening later on this year. We maybe we'll have a couple of details about that a little bit later on. Filipa, it's the top 8. You know, you've made it to the end of this tournament. It's been grueling, intense, all of these things. You've played maybe a different deck every week. You know, you can metagame against your opponent. And then you finally in the top 8, you have to play the same deck throughout the whole week. What do you think your instinct would be in terms of how you want to approach that decision?
So first of all, I would expect a lot of Grixis, because that's the deck I've been seeing the most since day 1 this season. So maybe I would bring Rakdos, make the mana a bit more consistent, get my Shieldreds, get my Invoke Despairs, Fable of the Mirror Breaker, and just go like with simple and clean Rakdos. What about you?
Well, I haven't been playing Standard a lot, but I have to say it's very difficult for me to register anything other than Grixis in any format. And I will do that when Grixis is bad. And so when Grixis is good, I think it's difficult for me not to, you know, be putting 3 or 4 counter spells in the main deck. Let's have a look at the metagame, and this is an absolutely hilarious one. Probably the funniest thing we've done this season. There it is, folks. It's the top 8 of the VML, and I think lots of people have really just settled on Grixis being the best deck in the format. 6 copies here tonight, and 2 copies of mono white midrange. Filipa, why do you think the mono white players have made that choice?
Well, Grixis sometimes struggles with the mana base, a lot of lands that enter top, especially in the beginning. Sometimes a lot of mana issues. Mono White is fast deck that can get over and can just beat Grixis fast. So I think that was the strategy here for the two players that decided to bring the Mono White mid range. Just try to get a good curve and curving winning against Grixis mid range and punishing a bit these more um, color based deck that needs a lot of mana and different colors. And I think that was the mindset behind the mono white mid-range deck. But yeah, let's see if it pays off or not, because Grixis is actually a very consistent deck. So I'm excited to see the games that we have here today.
Me too. Let's have a look at who has made it into the top 8. It's finally time to talk about the competitors. Let's bring up that bracket. And these are some awesome, fantastic players that have made it through the whole of VML Season 8. At the top there in the quarterfinals, Jason Yi, who's very, very decorated limited player, deciding that they're going to try their hand at Constructed and not doing too badly either, up against Sky Bauschmidt-Sweeney, who is pretty well known, I think, in the modern world, plays a lot of modern, a lot of legacy, but certainly no stranger, shall we say, to the standard streets as well. Vivian going up against Zoe Connell in the second of the quarterfinals, followed by Piper Maru and Owa, who I had a peek at Owa's slide, and Owa has literally one of the coolest outfits in their slide that I've ever seen. So I'm really hoping that we get to see a little bit of that later on. And then the last match there that you see is actually going to be our featured match for the quarterfinals. Nora Martin going up against Emma in the lower part of the bracket. These players, Filipa, would have need to have made the top 2 of their division. So they need to have played 7 weeks, made the top 2 out of 8, and then they've already played 2 rounds before getting here.
Definitely not an easy task. And Jason defeated me, so obviously great players here.
Well, of course.
And I'm really excited to see these decks and see these players and see what different versions of Grixis we also have, because in Grixis we have a lot of different versions running these days. We have the shieldredless Grixis, we have the shieldred Grixis. So I'm excited to see what decks they chose to bring. It must be so exciting to be playing this tournament here on the top 8. And they already got some sweet, sweet prizes.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, we've talked about it a little bit, regional championships invite, but the VML championships that is coming up later in the year, that's going to be a small field event with just 24 players. And there are 2 Pro Tour invites attached to this cycle of VML championships. So that is a huge, huge opportunity for these players to get into that top echelon of competitive play in Magic. So we will be talking a little bit more about that later on as well. But for now, let's have a look at our quarterfinalists that we're going to be featuring here today. Starting with Nora, and Nora is one of our mono white mid-range players. Filipa, what stands out to you about this deck?
Well, I really like this deck. It's not the classic mono white I've been looking a lot. I am excited to see. I one thing that stood out to me right away, and I've been playing against this card a lot, which is Lay Down Arms, a 1 mana sorcery, exile target creature with mana value less than or equal to the number of planes you control. Its controller gains 3 life. I really like this 1 mana basically exiles any creature at certain points. So really exciting to see this. I saw that this card has quite a bit of card draw here with the Reckon Bunkbusters, and one farewell is also important that we have in mind. I'm excited to see also like a lot of one-offs. We have one-off of the little dog, the spirit companion, one of Sarah Paragon that can bring things from the grave. So really exciting to see how this deck is going to turn out, also with the single Elspeth. So I'm really, really excited.
Yeah, this, as you say, I think a lot of the time when we think about mono white, we think about the 1 drop, 2 drop, 3 drop, the kind of more aggressive take on the deck. But I, like you say, love to see these inclusions, the Elspeth, the Steel Seraph, the one-off Farewell. Maybe this deck, really thinks that it can stay with the Grixis decks as they get in later on into the game. So Nora went 6-1 in division number 3. Certainly has had a fantastic run so far this season. And let's see what their opponent is playing. And it is going to be Emma on the other side of the bracket. And Emma is one of our Grixis players.
Yeah, and this Grixis deck actually also very interesting. Again, like me seeing all these different Grixis, and I really think it's funny because our players here they have to name their decks, and Emma chose to name this deck yet another Grixis Midrange, which it has to be funny, right? Like we have to take a point for humor. This deck doesn't play Shieldred main, which is interesting, and I also like that he has one Etrai resurrected, the 4 mana card that allows you to destroy a creature or draw a card. So a lot of different inclusions in this deck, still playing with 3 Invoke Despairs, with we all know it's a key card, but also really difficult to cast with the mana base of Grixis. So it's going to be interesting to see if we get to that part of the game. Some counter magic. So a lot of different versions of Grixis, but the main cards always stay the same, which is Fable of the Mirror Breaker, our Harvester, our Corp Appraiser. Another reason why these players play Grixis instead of just playing Rakdos, and of course some removal like a Braid. So really interesting to see. We have 1 spell piece, so I'm also keeping an eye on that.
I love that. I love that. Is such a blue player thing. Just the 1 spell pierce, and then every time you have 1 mana up, your opponent is like, "Do they have it? Is this the time?" And my favorite.
Yeah, I'm really, really interested to see here what Emma does. And I think this deck is preparing also against Grixis. So I think Emma did a good job there preparing for the mirror if that ends up happening. I think she's going to be surprised to see a mono white be playing against. So
Yeah, absolutely. All right, let's get down into the action now. Quarterfinals here between Nora Martin and Emma. It is VML Season 8. It is time to get going. It's game 1, and it is not a great hand for Mono White. That one is going back, but this one is looking a little bit better, Filipa. 2 copies of Reckoner Bankbuster, Wandering Emperor, and Farewell.
and here we have one thing that I noticed, that it's exactly what you said. This is not your typical 1, 2, 3 drop mono white. If I don't have a 1 mana 2/1 to attack, I'm not doing well. This is more of a kind of mid-rangey mono white that allows you to draw a lot of cards, go a bit better in the late game. And here, drawing these Spirit Companion was really important for a mono white player, allowing to start a better curve. Okay, so we have Bankbuster, which I also really like this card.
Love Bankbuster. I'm with you. I think this card is incredible. And something that's pretty interesting is that this deck can play a little bit of an instant speed game with the Bankbuster, with the Wandering Emperor. You can leave your options open. But speaking of good starts, Filipa, Emma on the other side has Blood Tithe Harvester, the great 2-drop down on turn number 2. And it looks like there's going to be a follow-up here as well. It's a Bankbuster.
Okay, so it's not as ideal as having a turn 2 Harvester into turn 3 Fable, which I think is what every Rakdos or Grixis player wants to be doing, but this is also pretty good. And here we see Nora getting some lands, which is this is another card that I think it's interesting to see play by Nora's side that I was maybe not so expecting to see. So really nice to see this ambitious far hand here.
Yeah, this card, I see it was like a fringe playable in its limited format, which and I'm sure there are many other limited enjoyers out there. Like, it's so weird and interesting to see these draft uncommons kind of pop up in standard every so often. An ambitious farmhand certainly comes down, gets you a land. If you have Coven, you can transform it, and it does a little bit of extra stuff as well. But mainly, just smoothing out those draws, replacing itself with the land. And here is Wandering Emperor already on turn number 4. But
There it is, the
Filipa,
one off airtime resurrected.
wow.
There it is. And that is when it's very good. It's in these situations. And it looked like Emma was struggling for lands in a bit, decided not to use the blood token, but drawing with the Bankbuster in the previous turn and getting that fourth mana, being able to play that airtime resurrection, really, really key here. But Nora already following up with a Elspeth.
Yeah, the planeswalkers are not going to stop coming, it seems, from Nora's side of the battlefield. Not only is Elspeth on the battlefield now, but there's also another copy of Wandering Emperor in hand for Nora, having been drawn off that ability of Urtai. So Elspeth is going to go digging for now. Anointed Peacekeeper. I have to tell you, Filipa, every time I see Anointed Peacekeeper come down on the battlefield, my heart sinks. Like, I just hate seeing it so much.
It's definitely one of those cards that you don't like being played against, but it's really nice when you play it. And one thing that I really noticed is that I really like about Nora is Nora as the farewell, and the farewell makes it in a way that you can choose. So you can keep your planeswalkers and just exile everything that your opponent has, the graveyard, all the creatures, and just keep your planeswalker alive. So that's really important here, and it
Oh.
might be a swing later on.
That's a really good point, because I always think of farewell as just kill everything, the graveyard, enchantments, artifacts, whatever, everything gone. But as you say, you can actually get to keep some of your own stuff, and that is super important. Go for the Throat is the name for Nora, and I think it was good in that spot, Filipa, for Nora to really take a little bit of time and consider what to name, because a lot of the time, the temptation was always to just slam on the most powerful card, right? But naming Go for the Throat when your opponent doesn't have a lot of mana to work with could be really smart.
Yes, and I think it's very smart because you know that your opponent has to go for throat, so it increases a bit of the chance compared with some other cards that are one-offs and he hasn't played any yet. And it protects your Elspeth because you really want to make sure your opponent doesn't kill your creatures and that you get to keep your Elspeth alive. So I think it was a smart choice there. And getting to know the end is also very important. Not only being able to name the card, but being able to see what your opponent has. And we see a lot of action from Emma's side with the Phantom
Yeah,
of the
this
Mirror
is
Breaker, the Invoke
oh,
Despair, Counter Magic.
I've been in that spot a lot. And actually, Filipa, this really goes back to what you were saying before the match even started, which is that these Grixis decks have so many powerful cards in them, but the mana can be a real problem. Whereas for Nora, 5 planes on the battlefield, that's all she needs. And that's, she's just going to be able to cast all of those spells. Although Braid is doing a good job here for Emma of getting rid of that Reckoner Bankbuster before it can eat one of these creatures.
For sure, doing an amazing job there, and Nora not blocking, knowing that Elspeth is going to die anyway, might as well protect my creature. And we are in farewell possibility now with 6
Hmm.
mana available, but I think Nora might play a bit of a slower game here because right now it's maybe not too tempting to kill this board, right? Because you also have creatures, you also have things to do, and you know that your opponent, in this case Emma, has a hand full of good spells to follow it up. So
Speaking of good spells, here's Steel Seraph. It's going to be giving lifelink to this Anointed PC. Nora's life total was down to 11, so a little bit of a buffer going to be had from this attack. And Steel Seraph now the dominant force on this particular battlefield. And Filipa, when you're in this spot, how do you decide? Because I think sometimes, once you've played the Steel Seraph and maybe you're going to commit to playing more creatures out, it then gets harder and harder to use that farewell as you go.
yeah, that's true, but I think you only use the farewell if you are able to swing back. If you either you use it because you're going to lose and you really need to use it, but if you get the choice, I think you should only play it if you know that following you can come back, because spending all your mana to destroy everything but knowing that your opponent is going to rebuild the board, I think it's putting you as a disadvantage, so I wouldn't do it in this situation. So yeah, two situations where I use farewell, and those would be the ones. um
And that makes a lot of sense. And, Emma is still a little bit stuck on the mana. Drawing cards with the Bank Buster, though, that is the third card, I believe, or maybe even the fourth card that Emma has drawn from our favorite heist vehicle. I don't know where I'm going with this analogy, but I absolutely love this card. And here comes Urtai in for the attack. What does this signal to you?
Well, we see that there's the spell that does 3 damage to everything. So if Nora blocks with the 5/4, then we are able to play this Brotherhood's Ward and just clean the board. So I think that's the idea. And in case it doesn't, it gets some damage through, and we can play something else. So I think that's where this attack is coming from.
Wow.
So in this case, Nora has access to the end of the opponent, know that there's the Brotherhood's end in the end, knows that the 5/4 is not a good blocker, and just takes the damage, which allows Emma to play the Corp Appraiser here.
Corpse Appraiser comes down. It does not get any value this time, as usually you would expect Corpse Appraiser to be looking through the graveyard and looking through some cards in the top, but there were actually no creatures in the graveyard just yet. So it just came down as a 3/3, and oh my goodness, here is the second anointed PC venue. If the first one is backbreaking enough, Filipa, the second one is not what you want to see.
It's definitely not good for Emma. Emma must be like, again, I cannot believe this is happening to me. But White has been access to quite a few of these cards lately that allow you to see your opponent's hand and make the spells more difficult to cast. And I like to see it. It's fun. It makes the game more entertaining. I think if for example Nora didn't have access to see that the opponent had the Brotherhood's end, Nora would just block maybe the 3/2 with the 5/4, and the game just play out super differently when you have access to know what your opponent is doing, and just becomes much more fun, at least for Nora.
Yeah, I was gonna say, whose perspective are we speaking from? Here's a blood token, and Emma's gonna say, you know what? 2 scatter rays that cost 4 is not doing it for me. I'm gonna pitch one of them. Try and find an answer to the Steel Seraph. Try and find maybe some more mana to work with. There is that treasure token that was made by the Reckoner Bank Buster a couple of turns ago. But I think Emma, Filipa, just looking for an Abrade right now.
Yeah, an Abrade would be a great card here. Really tough spot here for Emma, with so many decisions, right? I would be so tempted to just do Invoke Despair. I don't know, I just love the card, but that 5/4 is not going away. And oh, there it is.
She found it.
She definitely found it.
Oh my goodness. Abrade for Emma. That's going to deal with this Steel Seraph, and Nora's having a little read of Wandering Emperor. That can put a +1/+1 counter. It cannot make something indestructible. And is Nora just going to have to flip this ambitious farmhand while Coven is live?
It's really difficult here for Nora. And suddenly Emma has so much more advantage. And things are looking so much better for Emma.
Yeah, that Steel Seraph was going to kill Emma, right? Like in the next turn, pretty much.
Yeah.
So this certainly makes a lot of sense. Roadside Reliquary is going to get cycled away because that's the last artifact on the battlefield. Nora does find another Roadside Reliquary. And, there it is. Steel Seraph off the battlefield. And I think Emma can breathe a little sigh of relief here.
Yeah, for sure. Another out that Emma could have is, for example, if she had the second Harvester and got, oh no, but she doesn't have any blood tokens. So Abrade was literally the out that Emma was needing there.
The one out. That
Yeah,
is crazy. This is why we do it, right? This is why we love this game because, you put the tools in your deck to find them, and just when you have that moment of finding it at the exact right time, it's so sweet. There is no better feeling in the world.
for sure. And it must feel so good here for Emma that suddenly has a much higher advantage and able to swing back, but still not over, I think.
No, not by any means over. Nora still has a pretty reasonable board. These 3/3s have vigilance, has a farewell in hand, has Wandering Emperor ready to go as well. The problem for Nora, Filipa, is if you take a chance on this farewell, you still know that your opponent has so much gas left in the tank.
Yeah, and you're at 8 live. So both of the players have to play quite defensively. Emma being at 7, Nora being at 8. Especially with an Invoke Despair on Emma's side, right? Because, okay, Nora farewells, but then Emma uses Invoke Despair, deals 6 damage, and suddenly Nora is at 2 with Emma with a full board. So
This is very, very tense. And it's pretty interesting, this game, the way that this game has played out, Filipa, because both players have really had roughly similar board presences, right? Like they've both had the Reckoner Bankbusters, they've had these 3-power creatures, but Emma has just managed to be sneaking some damage in every so often, and I don't really know how she's done it.
and this is where this mono white deck is a bit different than the traditional mono white aggro that we see, where it holds a bit longer than the other mono whites. It doesn't have such a great curve, but it does hold late game with so many card draw, with so many ways to deal with things, and so many one-offs that can bring you back sometimes in very specific situations. But here we have Make Disappear, and with Casualty, it's going to be costing 4 mana to counter, and we know that Nora only has access to 3.
Wow, Make Disappear. I love Make Disappear. It's just everything that I want in a card. It's a counter spell, it sacrifices. I'm with you. I also love sacrificing creatures, and it's just, oh my goodness, that's a Sanctuary Warden.
That's a very good card that puts Emma in a very, very fast clock, but also at the same time, we have answers from the other side and we know it. So it's not easy. And then there's this thing about having access to seeing your opponent's end. It's so frustrating because you know you have the card, but you know that they also have the solution. So you're like, should I play it? Should I not?
It is funny because usually I think if you're playing the more assertive deck and you know your opponent has a bunch of counter spells, I think a lot of the time people choose the strategy of just throw things at the opponent, right? Like just throw threats at them until they run out of counter spells. But it's a different prospect when you can see it sitting in your opponent's hand and they have the mana.
Yeah, and a lot of times this available information becomes kind of a curse because we see here Nora has access to different spells, but at the same time,
Oh, that's gonna do it. And just,
yeah.
yeah, staring at the resources available to Emma is too much. So we're gonna go and have a look at sideboard. Now we are playing best of 3, of course, today as we were throughout the entire of the VML. And let's have a look at the sideboard. Oh, I love this. Extra planes in the side. Just, oh,
Just
I
in case.
I love that stuff.
Yeah, there are a lot of interesting cards that I see here on the side of mono white. I see 2 Banishing Slash that destroy up to 1 target artifact, enchantment, or untapped or tapped creature. And then if you control an artifact and enchantment, you create a 2/2 with Vigilance. So that's a very interesting card. We see Temporary Lockdown. Again, another like showing that this deck goes for the more control side. With 2 touch of the Spiral Ram, more removal. We see a lot of removal, more farewell. This is a very interesting sideboard here.
Yeah, Nora definitely had access to a lot of different answers. It was interesting to see, of course, the second copy of Loran as well, the new 3-drop from Brothers War, which that card has just been so powerful, not only in standard but in so many different formats. And Nora on the play with that extra planes in, Reckoner Bankbuster on 2, and we're off to the races for Nora.
Yeah, and I think Nora realizes I'm on the play. I need these kind of cards that allow me to keep making pressure. Grixis is going to draw 10 cards anyway, so I might as well draw some as well.
Yeah,
Uh,
absolutely.
and we see here already starting with the Flyers, trying to make some pressure. But we
Wolf.
know Emma has so
Second of
many
braid.
answers.
So many. That's a braid into a braid. And Nora says, okay, third time's the charm. Surely. There are only 3 copies of a braid. Oh, there is a 4th one in the side. So there are 4 copies over the 75 of a braid. We've seen 2 of them in the first 2 turns of the game.
And a
And
great
let's see what Emma
MVP
has.
here, let me tell you
Yeah.
that. Unexpected MVP. Like, I was not expecting it to be. I mean, obviously it's good, but it's been just crushing Nora completely. And here, Corporate Praiser does something. So,
Lovely.
unlike
Lovely.
last game, so that's nice.
Yeah.
And Nora's starting to draw some cards, getting some, but a lot of
Some more
land.
lands.
Yeah. And it's
Love
funny here that
that.
we saw Destroy Evil because we know that Emma is not playing Shieldred unless she sideboarded the one that she has on the sideboard. But Destroy Evil being a very interesting card because sometimes we only see one side of this card, but it actually has 2 options, right? So
Yeah. We think about it as, okay, you're gonna kill Shieldred in your upkeep before you draw, but it does have the destroy enchantment side of it. So you can use that to answer something like a Fable of the Mirror Breaker. If that happens, to come down for your Grixis opponent. Bankbuster doing what it does best, drawing more Bankbusters. And we see the second copy of the artifact hit the battlefield. And meanwhile, Emma also developing the board out. That's a Corpse Appraiser alongside
are
Blood
we
Tithe
seeing a
Harvester.
second Abrade? Because I see Emma
No,
looking at that. You see, like,
no. Oh my
yeah.
goodness. A braid number 3.
I mean, I
What is
saw Emma
happening?
clicking the card and like it has to be. Why else would you be reading Bankbuster? I'm sure you know how the card works by now, so that hurts.
Wow, that must hurt for Nora, especially having already lost the first game of this one. Nora knows they need to get through, this game and another one in order to make it to the top 4. And Emma just has to close this one out. Reckoner Banksbuster, though, is going to keep drawing cards. Io the Dawn Sky was the find.
Yeah,
This
here,
dragon from Kamigawa, it does some pretty interesting things.
yeah, I really like this card, and sometimes it's underrated, but I really enjoy it. Like I've played with it, especially in draft when this card is insanely limited. But it's good that you have a card that applies a lot of pressure, and even
Yeah,
if it dies, it's not an issue. So
yeah, and look at this. Emma is kind of still stuck a little bit on mana again, just on the 5 lands. 5, of course, although is pretty good, right? For Grixis, like 5, you can do pretty much most of the things that your deck wants to do. But certainly, I think if you're the controlling player, you maybe want to be able to do 2 or 3 things in a turn,
oh,
if
there we
necessary.
have.
Oh, wow.
But having to sacrifice that Corp Appraiser in order to be able to get this counter, it's actually a nice price to pay.
Yeah, that is very true because normally, like, you really want to have this board presence. And we saw Emma do a very good job in game number 1 of always putting the pressure on, just always making sure that Nora had to think about her life total and not get too low. But this time, it's the other way around. Nora is the one with the board presence, and Reckoner Bankbuster, that's going to get crewed up by the pilot and come swinging in for 4 damage.
Yeah, and this is ideal here. And suddenly things are looking very good for Nora. Emma needs answers, but also there's the mana limitation, only having access so far to 5 mana, which doesn't sound like low, but for Grixis, it doesn't allow you to make that many spells. So I'm interested to see, and we have Go for Throat, but again, with this card, the good part is that if he dies, you get things.
You
So
get so many things. There
yeah,
are a lot of options here for
yeah,
Nora. It looks like it's going to be the first one. Look at the top 7 cards of the library and put any number of non-land permanents with total mana value 4 or less onto the battlefield. So you can get a free Wandering Emperor when your IO dies. That is a pretty good deal in my
that's a
books.
pretty good deal, and cards that allow you to be a 2-in-1, so that your opponent needs to have two ways to deal with things. It's really advantage because Grixis
Oof.
has a lot of removal, and we saw it here.
Oh my goodness, that was a huge swing. Brother has and not only cleaning up the creatures on the battlefield, but the fact that it does 3 damage to planeswalkers as well. That Wandering Emperor just kind of was destroyed in that huge fire along with the rest of the creatures. But second copy of IO is going to come down. Emma down to 8. Can she find a way to stabilize this board?
She's definitely looking for it with that blood token, getting a counter out, drawing something. I really like how Nora is aggressive. I really like that Nora is like, okay, I have to win this fast, curing Wreck Bunkbuster every turn, dealing a bunch of damage, already has another 5/4 that is attacking every turn, and choosing to not play Wedding Announcement, which is interesting. Um, and I really
Yeah,
want to see.
why do you think that's the case?
Might be. I'm not sure if Emma was tapped or not. Might be afraid of a counter spell. Um,
Yeah, maybe doesn't want to lose it to invoke despair,
yeah,
something
maybe
like
another reason the invoke despair also. So just playing more carefully, knowing that a lot of things are already doing their job, right? We already have the
that.
bank buster. We already have the 5/4 flying that is a big threat that gets another threat. So yeah, and this is going to be
Wow.
game over. And we saw mono white.
Nice.
Ah,
Okay, Mono White bringing it this one back. So we're going to see a decider here between these two mid-range decks in the quarterfinals of VML Season 8. And having a look at the sideboard, we saw Emma bring in that planes on the play. I wonder if she's going to take it out again on the draw.
yep, there it
There
is.
Wow.
I
I love
mean,
that. I
and
love that.
again, I really like the changes that we are seeing here. Taking some like bank busters that are maybe too slow against Grixis when Grixis is on the play, getting some answers, and taking a farewell. No, okay, we have our 60.
Yeah,
Really considering it though.
wow. Really, yeah, thinking about the way that this has played out, I think maybe, there's also some consideration, right? If you're looking at your opponent's list and you think, wow, actually, they're not playing Shieldreds, right? They're playing maybe one Shieldred in the sideboard. So
Mhm.
maybe the farewell not as important as it would be against a more traditional Grixis build, but we'll see how it pans out here for Nora in game number 3, the decider here in the quarterfinals. That first one's going to go away. The second one looks like it's going to be a keep. Lay down arms. You were talking about this card earlier, Filipa, along with Hearse out of the sideboard, wedding announcement, and Wandering Emperor.
Yeah, we have some nice cards here. I like the curve. We have like the Earth, if it's played early, it can go places. Although, if there's nothing on the other player's graveyard, okay, and we already have early removal. It's really important. We know our harvest can get really nasty fast. This card is
Mm,
really, really good. One of the reasons Rakdos Grixis is playing so much. And already having another one. And wedding
wow.
announcement, I really like wedding announcement. It's a nightmare to be played against this card.
I
And
completely agree with you. Wedding announcements, well, like once it comes down, right? Like if you have the spell pierce, great. If you don't have it and hits the battlefield, it's just the biggest nightmare because you just know it's going to be so annoying making these blockers, making your opponent's creatures huge, and there's not a lot you can do about it until you get to your invoke despairs and your top end as well. But Emma finds a copy of Reckoner Bankbuster, so it's going to be able to refill the hand. And Filipa, both of these players kind of both in pretty sweet spots right now.
Yeah, I see that Emma doesn't have access to a lot of cards, but again, Bunkbuster is great to allow to refill the end, and that's what we saw in actually Mono White last game. That he didn't have a lot of cards, and Bankbuster did a great job making a threat, having to the opponent use a braid to get rid of the second one, drawing so many cards, attacking so much every turn it was attacking. So Bankbuster here, I think MVP for both sides, really enjoying this card. But this is where Grixis starts to get really dangerous. One fun thing is that I haven't seen a lot of Fable of the Mirror Breaker by Emma, which you would
That's
think you
true.
would see a lot, because let me just confirm. Yeah, there's
It's
four of
there's
them.
4 copies. There's 4 copies. I
Yeah.
mean, Emma's done her homework. She knows Fable is behind, but maybe just hasn't been very good at finding it so far this particular match. Wandering Emperor did come down, by the way, in the end step, and Emma just kind of let that go. So there was no counterspell, at least for that particular one. And I wonder what's going on in Emma's hand if there was no kind of response to that Planeswalker.
If I was Nora, I would think, I have this wedding announcement. I have so many creatures. I really hope my opponent doesn't have Brotherhood's End to deal with all of
Mm,
them with just one spell. Um, and
that would
here
be
I
a little bit sad, a little bit tragic.
Yeah, and I think here the reason that Nora is attacking with two cards is to draw a card from the
From the announcement.
yeah, for the announce.
That makes a lot of sense. These 1/1s, they're probably not going to be that impactful, and getting to refill your hand a little bit certainly going to do some stuff. And actually, I was thinking about this Roadside Reliquary, which I think in game 1 was not very impressive, but now look at Roadside Reliquary. You could sacrifice that land potentially and draw 2 cards off it for Nora, and that's better than most lands, shall we say, in your monocolor deck.
Yeah, it seems like a pretty sweet deal, especially when you're playing against Grixis that has the ability to refill the end so fast. And also, it becomes a card in the grave eventually if you need cards for your Earths to get bigger.
There it is. It's Brotherhood's End. It is going to be wiping the board clean.
Yeah.
Goodbye to all of those samurai. Goodbye to the vampires. Goodbye to the Wandering Emperor. And we're starting with a clean slate here, which I think if you're on Emma's side of the battlefield, you feel, you're wiping the sweat off your brow. You've done it, at least for now.
Yeah, and here again, Nora being able to draw two cards. Suddenly, Nora's end is going to be really full, right? Six
Oh,
cards in once she draws.
yeah, that is a lot to deal with. This mono white deck, Filipa, is very different to mono white decks we've known, and I am loving it.
Yeah, I really enjoy it, and I think mainly maybe Nora recognizing Grixis has so many answers that she needs a deck that sticks in, right? It cannot just be your typical 1, 2, 3 deck, because then Emma has so many access to removal with the braids, with the go for throats, and
Yeah,
it's paying out. I mean, we saw game 2.
yeah, for sure. Here comes Reckoner Bankbuster. That is going to come in for the attack. Nora thinking about whether to maybe try and deploy one of these Wandering Emperors right now. Decides to just take the damage, and maybe hoping for Emma to tap out for something and go shields down before trying to resolve a Planeswalker.
This is really bold here by Nora, and I like it. I wish I was, sometimes when you wish you would be able to see what your player is thinking. I wish I was in Nora's hand right now, because it is sometimes really tempting to play this Wandering Emperor. Um, just making sure Nora that sees what the opponent plays first.
Just very, very tight, very cautious, shall we say, play. And Wandering Emperor coming down, not even going to get rid of that 4/4 right now. Instead, just going to go down and make a Samurai. That's a 3/3. And keeping the graveyard pretty clean as well.
Yeah, important to notice, like exactly because of the wedding announcement. Now your samurais instead of two twos are three threes, which makes a big difference. And we have a second wedding announcement, which
Oh,
I love when these cards start stacking up and you have the multiple plus ones, which can get insane very fast. So
it's not fun. I mean, it's fun, obviously, if you're the one stacking them up, but if you're on the other side of that, it just becomes such a headache. And Wandering Emperor is going to do its thing, put a counter on that samurai. I love that these guys have vigilance. I just think it just adds that little bit of power to the Wandering Emperor that makes her so, so cool. Oh, hello. Otawara, Soaring City.
yeah, Ottawa are really good here. But now Nora has the coast clear to play spells,
Hmm.
and
Yeah.
we see that she has a lot of access to answers. This lay down again, a great card. I think it's a great addition to white. I think it works really well in this deck, and really nice to see Nora being able to have this turn that actually turned out to be really good. And we saw how that making a 3/3 instead of just exiling the bank buster ended up being good, because Nora could have a turn where Emma had to Otawara, spend all the mana, and then
Hmm.
being able to play spells without being scared of counter magic.
Yeah, certainly worked out very well for Nora. Very, very canny play as we you can tell like these players are very experienced. They've played this matchup before. You know, deck lists are open, so when deck lists were published on Monday,
Oh,
you
that it
can
is.
get some testing in. Oh, the
This is
first Invoke
brutal.
Despair of the evening.
Yeah, and this is going to be brutal, dealing with creature,
Oh, hello.
enchantment, and yeah.
I think creature, enchantment, and
Enchantment and
planeswalker,
Planeswalker. Yeah, it's
right?
going to get rid everything except
Oh my
the
goodness.
artifact. And one of the weddings announcements stays. Let's
Yeah,
see.
okay, so that's not the end of the world, but oh my goodness. Nora, I think, tried to do something very smart, right? Which is to crew this unlicensed her so that that could be the creature to be
Yeah.
sacrificed for it. But go for the throat in response now means that not only is Nora going to lose the hearse, but also the creature and the planeswalker, and now just left with the singleton wedding announcement. Can Nora claw it back from this position? Wandering Emperor still available. That's going to come down immediately. Start to refill the board, and I just that Invoke Despair was so brutal.
We know that Invoke Despair is one of the key cards on Grixis, and when a three-color deck is playing a card that has four devotion to a single color, you know it's the card is good, you know?
Yeah, they jumped through a lot of hoops to be able to even cast this card. So you are definitely right. This card is so brutal when it happens. It has a very apt name, shall we say, since invoking despair is exactly the emotion that happens in your opponent. And it did a lot of work there for Emma, but it's not over yet because Nora gets to untap with the Wandering Emperor, has some board presence as well, and has found another copy of Wedding Announcement. So maybe, really that sixth land would be so good for Nora right now.
It definitely would. I was exactly noticing that. I was like, you really want to be double spelling right now, and only being able to cast one spell each turn. It's not going to do it against Grixis, especially when they have access to so many things, and those blood tokens being able to kind of help you get those key cards that you need. And yeah,
Mm-mm.
so now not only we have the Abrade destroying the creature, um, things are suddenly looking a bit more grave for Nora, but there's still two. There's still Wandering Emperor. There's still cards in hand that do stuff and powerful spells. So, and two wedding announcements. I just gotta love it.
This is fantastic. A real grind fest here between these two mid-range decks. You can tell both players really want it. They want that top four spot. Here comes Reckoner Bankbuster. That's going to just eat a chump from one of these vampire tokens. But wedding announcement, the second one is still only on one, so there are more little dudes where that one came from.
Yeah, and wedding announcement definitely being a great card here. And there is the sixth land that Nora was heavily looking for.
Okay.
Now allowing to play the steel as 6 mana or even 2 little steals, let's per se. And here I like how Nora blocked with just 1 to 2, realizing that there's 2 wedding announcements on the board. One still going to get +1/+1 eventually. There's Elspeth that makes more creatures, and being able to have a wide board where your creatures are getting bigger and bigger.
Yeah, certainly very powerful. And look at this, Steel Seraph comes down. Normally, I think you would, maybe be a little bit worried to play out 2 copies maybe of this, the Steel Seraph when it's a 3/3. But if it's a 4/4, it's protected from Brotherhood's War. It, is a pretty big board presence already, and it can certainly kill your opponent.
Yeah, definitely
In
a
a few
good
turns.
addition. Yeah, I really enjoy this card. Only thing that I think of is a braid. I mean, certainly Emma had enough for braids, right? So
Emma and a braid, like, name a more iconic duo, frankly,
yeah,
at
I
this
would just,
point.
if I was Nora, I would have just like be so traumatized by all these braids. I would just be like, please, no more.
Please, no more.
Give me a braid.
We've seen enough. We've seen enough, and it's gonna be maybe a pass back. We reckon a bank buster, has been refilling the hand for Emma, right? So Emma has not really gone below like 3 or 4 cards in hand for the entire game, pretty much. So we certainly expect there's no Fable yet, no second Evoke. There's got to be something. There's got to be some kind of reactive spell in hand for Emma. Let's find out together whether, Nora can push through enough damage. Although it's, both players still very healthy life
Yeah.
totals. That's a long way to go yet.
What I think a lot is that Emma has so many counter magic that sometimes it's, unless your opponent pays 2 or casualty 4 in this case. But Nora always keeping a bit of mana, dodging those. And
Wow. Urtai resurrected the one of, did come down. It did destroy that Steel Seraph before combat could happen, but
we have
the
a
card that
wedding
it gives.
announcement.
Yeah. The
Oh,
third one.
I love to
My
see it. I'm
goodness.
really sorry, Emma, but I love to see these 3 wedding announcements.
Oh,
I
wow.
feel for Emma. I know how annoying it is to be played against like this card, let alone
This
3 of
is
them.
just such a huge board. It is, in fact, the 4th one since there was one already destroyed by an Invoke Despair. Here's another copy of Brotherhood's End, and that is going to do a great job of clearing up everything except for one of the tokens, one of the ones that had a +1/+1 counter put on. And Filipa, it's 4 weddings, but is it going to be Emma's funeral? Or are we going to see Nora get that? Oh, disdainful stroke, taking out that Steel Seraph.
It's not the celebration that we were expecting, but it looks like it might be Emma's funeral,
Wow.
at least in the VML.
Oh, let's see. Wedding announcement number 3/4, depending on how you're counting. Get another counter, makes another creature. But Emma has been drawing so many cards. Like, she can just keep answering these tokens one by one, and Nora really is living off the top of the library now. So it's still anybody's game, I think, at this point, Filipa.
Yeah, actually, I'm thinking that Nora might be at a disadvantage here because Emma has access to so many cards. Yes, Nora has 3 weddings, but 2 of them already gave all creatures that had to give, and the other one only has 1 more creature. Yeah, and Invoke Despair can change the situation.
Okay. All right. Here is Invoke Despair for the second time tonight. It's going to take out one of those tokens, the smaller one, of course, and one of the wedding announcements. So slowly but surely, Emma is kind of grinding away at this board, taking out as much as she can. Oh, we do
Oh,
have
and
to
we
keep an
see the
eye on the clock.
timer. Yeah. But it's a
Oh, what a
great.
draw.
Yeah, this is the kind. Because if Nora drew a land here, she would be in a terrible spot. But AO makes things a bit more different.
Hello? Crew of the Reckoner Bankbuster. This smells like a make disappear, and there it is. We don't need two Bankbusters, says Emma. We can sacrifice one of them and counter this dragon before it can get down. We saw how much work it did for Nora in the previous game, and Emma says, not again, not today.
Really smart play there by Emma. Really enjoyed that. And things are looking good. I mean, Corp Appraiser.
Corpse
We start
Appraiser.
rebuilding. Yeah, starts rebuilding the cards in end, and Nora is top decking mode. I'm thinking what can be the best top deck for Nora here, and
Mm.
AO was pretty good, but that counter and maybe Emma has more.
Maybe, indeed. Maybe something like a Sanctuary Warden, if it hits the battlefield, something that's very difficult to remove, provides some cards, provides board presence. You know, Emma is at 8, so Nora can really maybe even taste the end in sight, you know, with Emma at just 8 life, but it's so difficult. And we're going to get a look at the hand now. Oh my goodness. It's it's all removal.
I like how the program recommends you rabbit battery.
Yeah, look. Gotta stop those rabbit batteries from coming down. Anointed Peacekeeper is going to actually name Reckoner Bankbuster, which is pretty smart because Anointed Peacekeeper not only makes it more difficult for you to cast your spells, but also makes it so that you have to pay in order to activate any ability. So if you want to draw cards off your Bankbuster, if you even want to crew it, you're going to have to pay a tax of 2 now if you're Emma.
This game has been insane. First of all, we already had a lot of game going on, games 1 and 2, and now each turn I think it's Nora's game, and then I think it's Emma's game, and then I think it's Nora's game, and then I see the clock and I'm like, oh, Emma only has 7 minutes left.
Yeah,
This is getting
crazy.
interesting.
This is crazy. I
And a
mean,
lot of
Anointed
times we-
Peacekeeper, it's so big. It's a 5/5.
It is, because those wedding announcements are working for you. And guess what? Every creature that you're going to play, that is going to happen. Your 3/3s suddenly have 5/5s.
Yeah, this is crazy. And Emma says, you know what I'm gonna do? I'm just gonna pay 4 mana, right? To draw a card. Oh, there it is! Fable of the Mirror Breaker for the first time from a Grixis deck today. It's going to come down. It's going to make a 2/2 Goblin. Of course, that is going to be pretty small here on the battlefield, but it at least is a blocker for some of these creatures. And we know that when Fable the Mirror Breaker gets to flip over, it can do some pretty nasty things.
And this A Gandry is going to work pretty well.
Oh,
yeah.
Is that a one single copy?
Let me.
Oh
check.
yeah.
It is a one single copy.
Oh my goodness. The Singleton Aganjo used as a combat trick. We don't really see that very often in Constructed, but love to see that being used there to take out the double block. Suddenly, Nora has a huge board. Emma's down to 5. Does have a Brotherhood's End and an Abrade. So could potentially maybe double spell deal with the Peacekeeper plus the token, I guess, the 3/3.
Yeah, but then what do you do? Because you're spending a lot of mana doing that, and that pain land.
Oh my goodness.
Emma is at 4 life.
These pain lands. I've died to my own pain lands so many times playing this Grixis deck.
Me too. Too many that I don't want to admit. Oh, and we have another Abrade? Okay,
of course.
Now this is going to
of
be
course.
clean. And Nora needs to
Oh.
top deck something.
That was insane. I mean, we knew about the first Abrade, right? We knew about the Brotherhood's End. Oh my god, that's a Loran. That can deal with this Fable of the Mirror Breaker. As well as draw some cards for Nora, and it's a 4/3. It's a lethal attacker. this game is so swingy. As you say, Filipa, every single turn it feels like somebody else is winning. And let's see whether Emma can find something. What is it going to be to potentially save herself from this lethal attacker in the form of Loran? Oh, and it's another Fable.
And Emma has two jobs. Emma needs to not die, and Emma needs to win in 4 minutes.
Oh my god. Okay, there it is. Go for the threat. That's going to at least, make Emma feel like I'm not going to die this time.
And at this point, I think you cannot be too mad if you end up losing. I can tell you, when I went to the playoffs, I lost, and I lost fast. But this is like, it was close. They were good games, you know. You got to play, you got to do your thing.
No,
Really,
absolutely. This has been a fantastic match. Just really representative of the kind of high level of play and just really great kind of technical ability and of course deck building, deck tuning that you see in the VML. Nora, by the way, found the perfect card, the second copy of Loran.
and we have Corp Appraiser against a great card that allows you to find the key pieces of your deck. And actually, the VML, as a lot of my friends, I have a lot of competitive Magic players. As ooh, and then a braid
Oh.
though. Okay,
I'm just gonna send Emma a framed copy of a braid after this.
Oh yeah.
Because that card has just done everything, and he has a huge attack in. It is going to be 12 damage taking. Is that right? 12? No, 10 damage taking Nora. Down to 1. Elspeth Resplendent, where were you a couple of turns ago, Elspeth? Could have meant lethal so
It's
many
like
turns
that
in
music.
a row.
It's just a little too late.
Yeah. Just, she is resplendent, but she is a little bit late to this particular party. And what can she find? 3 lethal attackers on Emma's side. Has 2 copies of Reckoner Bankbuster as well. I don't think a single one of these cards on their own is necessarily going to save Nora. It's got to be the dog. The good dog, Spirited Companion. Oh my god, Sanctuary Warden is a great card, but it's not going to be enough, and we are going to see Nora scoop this one up, we believe. Let's just double check, make sure everything is
I think Emma can do it in 3 minutes.
Okay, there it is. The attack all button has been pressed, and after a huge epic slug, it is Emma on Grixis midrange that is going to take this one down and advance to the top floor. Wow, Filipa, what a match that was. That's
And
crazy.
I was saying that I have a lot of friends that play competitive Magic, and they have been recognizing the VML more and more. You know, in the beginning when I started playing in season 3, a lot of them didn't know what the VML was or for. But now I'm like, when I said I made top 32 of the VML, they're like, oh, that's pretty impressive. There's a lot of good players in the VML, and I've played a lot of competitive tournaments in my life, a lot of Grand Prix, and I can say the VML has high quality of Magic players, and it's getting better within each season. So I'm really excited for what the VML has been able to do, and it's really nice to see.
No, absolutely. Okay, so we are going to have a tiny break, just a little one, because that was a huge epic battle. We need to have a little breather after that, I think. But when we come back, we are going to be bringing you the first live match of the evening. It's going to be semi-finals time after the break. Do not go anywhere. We will be back very shortly. Hello, everybody. Welcome back to coverage of VML Season 8. You are watching our final broadcast of the season. It's the live top 8 slash top 4 slash finals coming up. Hi, my name's Haiyue. I'm here with Filipa. We are sponsored by Wizards of the Coast and Good Luck High Five. Filipa, I'm still recovering, frankly.
Yeah, I am still recovering. I'm with Nora. This was a great game. Both sides. Congratulations to Emma, but to both players because this was a great game and a lot of skill involved. So congratulations on making top 2 to both of them as well. To top 8 to both of them and top 4 to Emma.
Yeah, certainly very well played by both sides. And before we get into the quarterfinals, I do want to do a couple of shout outs because the VML, we're all staffed by a group of awesome people. Most of us, we are sponsored, of course, but a lot of us put in, way more time and effort than they are necessarily compensated for, which because we already super believe in this project. We are very passionate about it, and we just believe that Magic deserves to have a VML and to have the space that we've created. And one of the people that I think has been most prominent in the past couple of years for the VML has been Aria. And unfortunately, we are losing Aria because even though she can't play in the VML anymore or be part of the VML team, she has gone to work for Play Design in Wizards of the Coast. So we want to say a huge congratulations to Aria, 3-time VML champion, of course, Pro Tour regular. She wrote articles for CFB. She just really had a huge pro Magic career launched off the fact that she won VML season 4 or 3, I believe, or 4, one of those seasons.
Yeah.
So thank you so much to Aria, and not only for that, but for her work, on the broadcast as a caster, arranging the testing teams, which has been a pretty cool initiative for the VML as well. So thank you so much to Aria. And congratulations. And of course, we wish her all of the best in her new job. And someone else that we wish all the best to is Caroline, who is our other co-chair of the VML. She, of course, Caroline and I do a lot of the leadership stuff behind the scenes. And of course, Caroline used to be on the commentary team as well. And we say congratulations because she recently, a couple of days ago, got married. So those 4 wedding announcements, Filipa, were very relevant.
Yeah, and we are delivering the 5th one here.
Exactly. So congratulations so much to Caroline and to Sam, and we wish you, of course, all of the best. There's Filipa. I'm kind of ready, I think, for a bit of live Magic. Should we see the bracket? Let's have a look at the bracket and see who made it through the round of top 8 and who is going to be here tonight. There we have it, the top 4. Sorry, I just realized what the finals is. So it's Jason Yi up against Zoe Canal in the top half of the bracket. Owa against Emma in the bottom of the bracket. We saw Emma, of course, win that quarterfinals. It looks like it's going to be an all Grixis affair, as all of the players who made the top 4 are playing Grixis tonight. So strap in, my friends. We are here for some grindy mirrors. And maybe we can have a look at our first semi-finals and have a look at the slides. It's Jason Yi, and they have brought Grixis Midrange. Filipa, is there anything that stands out from Jason's deck?
First of all, if I had to make a guess, and I'm probably not that great at Magic, but if I could make a wise guess, it would be that Grixis is going to be winning tonight.
Wow!
Just based on my pure knowledge.
That's why we pay you the big bucks to be our expert commentator.
That's why for my expertise, And I first of all, the thing I said before, I keep with it. These decks are different. Like these Grixis decks they are the key cards you see in all of them: Fable, Harvester, Corp Appraiser, some Bank Busters, disappears. But this deck, for example, we see that it has Shahili, which I think it's definitely a very interesting addition on Jason's side, and I'm excited to see 2 Shieldred main, which, and again, like the deck that we saw before, it was Shieldredless. We see
Mm.
4 Invoke Despairs, just full on, and 3 cut downs, which is interesting to see as well. So I'm excited. I think Jason, knowing that the opponent is probably also going to play Grixis, Cut Down is actually an underrated card because you can discard it with Fable if you don't need it, but it deals with the tokens from the Fable. It deals with the Harvester, which is one of the key cards in the deck. So I'm definitely excited to see this, especially Shahili.
Okay, I love this card. I think Sahili I would more expect to crop up in those, anvil based Grixis decks with the sacrifice and the artifacts kind of stuff. But I'm excited to see what she does here for Jason. Let's have a look at the other side of the battlefield though and have a look at Zoe's deck. Zoe went 7-0 in Division 11. 7-0 is an incredible achievement. Like, it is very, very difficult to go 7-0 in the VML because you're playing, week after week after week. You only play one match a week, and your opponent knows your deck list. So everybody is very well prepared and everybody is well meted, shall we say, against people. So the fact that Zoe was able to go 7-1 is just an incredible achievement already. But let's see what she has brought to the top 8, because that record no longer matters, and what matters is what's in the deck. So tell me about this version.
So this version, it runs the 2 Shieldred. It doesn't have Sahili like the other ones. Still 4 Invoke Despairs, 4 Fables, 4 Harvester, 4 Appraisers as we usually see. But here I see 2 Duress mains. So it doesn't have the cut down that the Jason deck has, but 2 Duress is another 1 drop that has so much potential against Grixis. And then there's 1 Aetrite Resurrected, and this card can be really interesting in the mirror. So overall the base is the same, but there are some different key cards. So I'm really excited to see how these directs play out, how these downs play out on Jason's side, and also Sahili on Jason's side, and here the resurrected. So exciting to see. Overall similar versions, but with some key cards that are different.
I love those 2 copies of Duress. I think that is so smart coming into the finals. And some pretty interesting cards in the sideboard there as well for Zoe. 1 copy of Blade Coil Serpent, 3 copies of Siphon Insight potentially could be coming in. So I'm excited to see how these decks change post-board as well. But before we get there, we can hopefully go down to the action, and we have, through the magic of Phoebe's awesome production, can bring you the live semifinals between Jason E and Zoe Canal. We are going to be watching from Jason's perspective, but we do have hand cam because Phoebe is amazing and doesn't get enough credit and or love for what she does. And what do you think of this opening hand, Filipa?
Again, mana, right? Like, I see Painlands, it's good, but we see 2 Invoke Despairs, right? And it's normal because both of these players are playing a lot of Invoke Despairs, but you definitely need a 3rd land in this.
Yeah, okay. Hey, there is the 3rd land. So Shipwreck Marsh was the find for Jason, and a Braid, that card that has been MVP of the evening so far. Let's see whether a Braid can do some work for Jason here. And having a look at Zoe's hand, it's just all despair all the way down.
That doesn't surprise me. With 4 Despairs, I mean, this is going to be a despair battle. And the rest here, just, it's really, really good. But the rest, I'm kind of a fan of the rest.
I love
being able to see your opponent that has a counter spell, in this case 2 make disappears, it's really important, and it's probably not going to be really fun for Zoe to see when they're holding 2 Invoke Despairs. So
here is Duress. It's going to take away one of those Invoke Despairs. I think Zoe thinking that, it's pretty easy, or at least possible, to play around the make disappear when you know about them. But Jason, with the Fable of the Mirror Breaker, that somehow escaped Duress, and it's the classic phrase, Filipa, can't still seize the top of the deck.
That's true, and it's so frustrating. I think it happens to all of us. We have Duress or Totsis wherever. We think we remove the important key card of your opponent. You're feeling good, and then they just top deck the perfect card.
How about this for a power move? No discard from the Fable.
And here I really think Jason is with a big advantage. These two counter spells are going to play a big part. Although Zoe is able to draw a lot of cards, but
Yeah,
how
I mean,
on
we have.
earth to
Oh
spare?
my goodness. I mean, okay. Jason has the two counter spells, right? And we saw kind of in our quarterfinals match how important it is when your opponent knows about those counter spells. It really changes the way that they play the game, the way changes the way that they plan the next couple of turns. But also, like, as Zoe's hand is just full of gas, and maybe at some point, like, don't you just throw things until they stick?
Yes, of course, but at the same time, what I think is that Jason not only has the counter magic, Jason has the pressure, right? With the
Mm.
Fable of the Mirror breaking turning now, with that 2-2 making the treasures, with the 3-2 also attacking, this is 5 damage each turn. And Zoe has to, at the same time, put threats knowing that Jason has counter magic
Mm.
while dealing with the threats that Jason is able to play, because that little 2-2 has been able to make 2 treasures, which is just enough for counterspell. That it's not only make disappear, it's not only counter unless 2, but you can just sacrifice your 2-2 and get the casualty and make it counter unless it pays 4. And we know that Zoe is not able to play a spell and pay 4 mana for the counter, so
Saheeli is going to come down as well for Jason, adding to the pressure that they are putting on in this particular part of game one. And you know, if we had an advantage bar, which we don't, and maybe we'll bug Phoebe to make an advantage bar sometime in between seasons. That's a joke, Phoebe. Don't worry, I'm not going to.
What are you talking about? I thought an
You know,
advantage bar was a candy bar.
if there was an advantage bar, we would probably be sliding it way down towards Jason's side because this is a huge amount of stuff. Although, never count out the hand that has 3 Invoke Despairs in it.
oh, of course. And I felt this when I was playing against Jason in the top 32. I felt like Jason always had this ability to make pressure at the same time, not enabling me to ever do anything relevant. And I can see this
Yeah.
again here. That's exactly how I felt. I felt like Jason had the ability to just play enough threats for me to be dead soon, but at the same time, I couldn't play anything. So
That is something that, you know, is the kind of the hallmark of a great player, right? Like, it just feels so impossible to do anything against them. You can't really find any chinks in the armor. But like this combo, we've seen this before, right? Reflections, once you get to untap with it and it's lost the summoning sickness and you have a Blood Tithe Harvester down on the battlefield, is just so brutal. Just being able to keep making those harvesters, you can remove almost anything that your opponent plays and you get those blood tokens as well.
yeah, this is looking really good. And let me tell you, from what I know of Jason, Jason is not going to miss an opportunity to take the win here. Really in cornering the opponent, and I feel bad for Zoe. But it's not ended yet. As you said, 3 Invoke Despairs can make room for
Yeah,
some.
a lot can happen.
Yeah,
For sure. Oh, how about this? Jason's actually going to give up the last Blood Tithe Harvester to get this Reckoner Bankbuster off the battlefield. And, you know, that, I kind of get it, right? Like, the combo is great, right? The Blood Tithe Harvester Reflections combo is fantastic, but that Bankbuster had 3 counters on it. And now the way is clear. Oh my goodness.
And let me just tell you, not only Jason is able to invoke Despair, also keeping 2 mana up for a counter spell.
Just perfect.
Yeah, it
Just,
looks
you could
really
not
good.
ask for better. And those Thopsers, by the way, come in with haste. So this is going to be a big attack for 4. Zoe is down to just 5 life in this opening game of our top 4 match, our first semifinals here in VML Season 8. And I mean, that's a Shieldred. Can Shieldred help?
Well, the thing is that at least Zoe can make a spell and use the make disappear. So we know that this is going to resolve, right? But at the same time, Jason just has so much pressure that even if it does resolve, with Zoe being at 5, I think this is it.
Yeah, so we knew about this make disappear, of course, from that duress earlier on. And that is going to do it. So he scoops it up. So Jason is going to take down the first game of this Grixis mirror here in our semifinals. And look at this. Look at the speed at which Jason is sideboarding. Like, she's played this matchup a couple of times. She knows exactly what's coming in and out.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, I played these Grixis version before, sort of, and I think whoever is playing it is prepared for a mirror, right? You are prepared for what your opponent might be playing at this point. And here it shows that our players are prepared.
Oh, no, sorry to interrupt, Filipa. You were probably saying something very insightful. I was going to give a shout out. I was going to give a shout out to the extra land in the side because I am so down for this mid-range. Let's play an extra land on the play and one land less on the draw.
That's why I don't win games. I don't think about this as like as much. Like these players, they think about every single detail and they are inspiring me. Like they are inspirations. They are playing so well. And here I really liked what Jason did. If I go here and see Jason's deck, one thing that I see is that automatically 2 Siphon Insights were put from the sideboard, and it's so good in the mirror.
Oh, Siphon Insight came out of the board for Zoe as well. We see that in the hand and now on the stack, as well as another sideboard card, Blade Coil Serpent in hand. So maybe we'll see that mythic that we don't see very often come in to play for Zoe a little bit later on. But for now, Siphon Insight is going to do a little bit of work for both players.
Yeah, it's a great card, and the fact that it's instant is really good because both of these players are going to be careful for counter magic.
Right. The fact that you can just hold up your own counters and then in the end step kind of play this draw go game is amazing. Here is the flashbacked Siphon Insight. This time Zoe's going to be able to resolve it, and I think that's a make disappear that Zoe got. So both players managing to snipe counter spells from the top of each other's deck.
Stealing your opponent's counter spells seems pretty good.
Yeah, not a bad exchange, shall we say, for both players. Let's see what Jason can find again. Oh, that invoke has got to be tempting, but the land, that could genuinely be exactly what Jason was looking for.
It might be, yeah, and we see land there.
So disciplined.
But just being able to exile that, it's really good.
That's true, you make a great point.
It's not just about the stealing. You're taking one of the cards that your opponent has to win the game. You're one of the win cons, right? I would never be mad about it, but a braid there, realizing Harvester is a big threat. We saw how much work Harvester did last game.
Exactly. And Jason kind of sitting back on a lot of stuff. Both players really sitting back and just trying to get something through, right? Here's Fable now for Zoe, and Jason's going to play Negate, but it's going to be the Negate from her hand, keeping the secret of the Negate that she stole a little bit longer. Are we going to see a fight? No.
Corporate Praiser making a negate still be available in case Zoe tries to counter.
Love that. There's even a Blood Type Harvester to get. Oh, lots of great options here for Jason. We saw her be very disciplined last time and choose a land over a spell. This time it's going to be a spell over the lands. It's Fable of the Mirror Breaker. That one is too powerful to pass up, and she is going to sit back with Negate, with Disdainful Stroke, both available, as well as that Blood token if she feels the need to do any card filtering. Reckoner Bankbuster, though, that one's going to make it down.
Yeah, and I really like that Jason decided to choose the Fable because we do have the Blood token that allows us to take a card that we know we are not going to play, try to get an extra land, and it's easier to get a land than to get a Fable of the Mirror Breaker. And here, paying off, drawing two lands in a row, so now the land doesn't seem as relevant, and having the ability to have Fable is really important because a 3-mana spell allows you to play against counter magic, let's say, or you're not so upset if your opponent ends up countering it and spending a counter on it.
Wow, and look, just leaving up that 2 mana to pay for something like a Make Disappear that we know, of course, Zoe has access to. And it looks like this Fable is going to resolve. Reckoner Bankbuster was not able to find a negate or something that would be able to prevent it from coming down. So he looks staring at that Make Disappear. No creature to sacrifice to the casualty. And there is a Fable. It is down on the battlefield. And I think, Filipa, we have to kind of slide the advantage bar towards Jason again, especially since we know that there is potentially a way to stop this invoke from resolving.
Yeah, there's a stroke, but I think there's enough mana to make disappear the Disdainful Stroke, right? So
yeah,
this is going to happen.
Holy moly, this is a big invoke despair, and Jason, having played so tightly the whole game, is left staring at 2 counter spells, but Zoe has 2 mana available, and if you're on Jason's side of the battlefield, you've got to think, like, you've got to try, right?
You gotta try to. Jason knows that Zoe has the counter, but I think it's worth to maybe trade a counter for a counter because then Zoe is going to be tapped out if she plays the Make Disappear, and Jason is able to just play also the Invoke Despair, knowing that Zoe is tapped out, right? So
yeah, I mean, this is such an interesting decision. And Jason also, by the way, using the negate instead of the Disdainful Stroke in hand, having to make a big decision about whether you're going to save that negate for something like a Fable or save that Disdainful Stroke for something like a Shieldred. And this is potentially going to work out relatively well for Jason, even though she lost the Fable there and that creature as well.
yeah, and really smart here by Jason deciding to use the negate that is already revealed and keeping a Disdainful Stroke. Disdainful Stroke doesn't deal, for example, with some of the cards, but neither does negate. So having the ability to have a secret, let's say, like Zoe not knowing now that Jason has access to counter magic is really, really relevant.
So we have Zoe with Reckoner Bankbuster with 2 counters. There's still 2 cards available there, down to 7. Jason sitting at 10 with the board presence with the 3/3 in the form of the Corpse Appraiser. So he finds a Corpse Appraiser, and that is the one card that cannot be either Disdainful Stroke or negated. That's going to resolve.
And a counter there for Zoe, which is really important, like Make Disappear. It's really good here.
Yeah, Zoe, I think, is just going to pass the turn, leave up that Siphon Insight, and has the ability to both do that and make disappear something or draw a card from the Reckoner Bankbuster. So you're seeing both Grixis decks really operating the way that they want to, being able to develop their cards, being able to develop the board. And I wonder if this copy of Saheeli is going to, be the mirror breaker in a way.
It might be. And another thing I noticed, Jason getting her own Corpse Appraiser, 2 of them in hand as well. So this game looks really tight, really close, can go both ways. If there was an advantage bar, I think it would be pretty close.
Yeah, I agree. I don't think you could really cut it either way right now. So Healy is going to go on the stack, Jason's to make sure that Auto Tapper doesn't do anything to interfere, shall we say, with this particular spell. And also you've got to be careful with these pain lines as well, that you're not taking too much damage. Zoe has some decisions to make. Filipa, I love the way that this Grixis mirror post board has turned into almost like a control mirror of, traditional magic that we think of.
Yeah, it's this mix Grixis mirror is actually very interesting, and I really like how these games are playing out. It just so many decisions, and the pain lands are hurting though, because Zoe is already at 6, been taking some damage also with the pain lands, and I mean, having
Yeah.
access to 3 colors, it will always cost you something, especially in standard, right? So
Yeah, totally. Haunted Ridge, that's at least a painless land for Zoe. But what's more painful right now, or at least more urgent, are these 1/1 Thopters that are in the air. She's only at 4 life. That's not very many attacks from these 1/1s before it's the end of the line for her. And she's already a game down. So really needing to dig deep and find some way of answering these 2 flyers. Blade Core Serpent, she's considering now. Let's have a look together. That, of course, as everybody knows, is the X6 mythic from Brothers War. It's a 5/4. When it enters the battlefield, for each blue you spend to cast it, draw a card. For each black you spend to cast it, each opponent discards a card. And for each red, it gets a +1/+0 and trample and haste. So this card really does everything, and you can kind of be very selective about what effects you want out of this card.
yeah, but again, pain land, right?
Yeah.
Zoe down
Oh
at
my
3,
goodness.
and we know about that stroke.
Jason already hovering there with the disabled stroke. Here it is, Blade Core Serpent, and that is the fastest you will see this go on the stack. But 2 copies of Make Disappear in hand for Zoe. Here is the first one.
But
Is
Zoe's
this
going
going
to
to be
tap.
painful though?
Yeah, but Zoe's going to tap to do this, right? So
Right.
then Jason has the coast clear to play these appraisers and try to find a way to kill that.
The serpent. But Zoe, okay, let's have a think about this. Zoe is going to resolve this, right?
Yeah.
Did not take any extra damage. So the flyers alone are not lethal as things stand. This Blade Serpent was played with a lot of red mana, like a lot. That's 7 power. But what? Oh no. Did Zoe have to crew the Bankbuster? I think it's possible that Zoe had to crew the Bankbuster in order to present a lethal attack, since that Blade Core Serpent does have trample and haste if you use the red. Corpse Appraiser, they're coming back down for Jason. Let's see what is going to happen in
a Shieldred.
Oh my goodness.
Shieldred kind of does it, right? You now, unless
That's gotta be it.
Yeah, I mean,
There's Zoe's tapped out. Jason's gonna make extra sure, right? Let's play the Saheeli, draw an extra card, get full information, and that is, the kind of tight play that we expect from Jason. Can tap one of those artifacts, and if you have a Shieldred, you're doing 2 damage in the draw step of the opponent. There it is. Zoe is down to 2. Here is Shieldred. Is this gonna do it? Because Shieldred hitting the battlefield. Zoe, is there any way to have an upkeep stop?
And that's it.
Draws the card, and that is it. There is no way to escape this Shieldred, and Jason Yi is going to advance to the finals. She's going to be your first finalist of the evening. Wow, that was such a sweet match. Just Filipa, just watching those 2 Grixis decks change a strategy almost completely post board and become that draw go kind of instant speed, let's play on the stack matchup was fantastic.
It's been a pleasure to see these games and see these players and their thought behind. Like we see plays paying off so many turns in advance than the decisions that the players have to make it. And Jason really doesn't leave a chance for the opponent. Like Jason doesn't do a mistake. I felt like that, and I had a deja vu today. I'm really excited to see what Jason does in the finals because we already know that she's going to be one of our finalists here today.
Yeah, congratulations to Jason. And of course, congratulations to Zoe for making it to the top 8, locking up that RC invite, locking up the VML Champs invite as well. And, Jason, more known as a limited player. I believe Jason made the last arena championships off the back of her incredible limited performance. Like, I don't know if you know this, Filipa, but Jason has something like a 70% win rate in limited on arena
It doesn't
in
surprise me.
total. Like, it's just like, and for those of you who keep track of this kind of thing, 70% is crazy. Like, it's insane. I think Jason told me once that there were some formats, like some specific draft formats, in which she had like a 90% almost win rate. So Jason certainly very well versed in limited, but you can see some of that influence, the tight plays, the very technical kind of aspects kind of really shining through in that match as well.
Yeah, and a lot of times we associate Magic as a game of luck, but the truth is that when you get good, it a lot becomes to skill, especially when you're playing more of these like controlish decks. And I really enjoy to see a lot of skill on both our players today, and I'm excited for the finals.
And me too. But before we get to the finals, we are going to have a second semi-final. And before we have the second semi-final, we are going to have a very quick break. So we will be just heading out for a couple of minutes, give Phoebe a little bit of time to set up the second semis. And when we come back, we will bring you, of course, live coverage of that match as well. See you in a few minutes. Welcome back to coverage of VML Season 8. It's the top 8. My name's Haiyue. I'm here with Filipa. We are still sponsored by Wizards of the Coast and Good Luck High Five. Thank you so much to our awesome sponsors for making this possible. And we just watched the first live semifinals here. We saw Jason with Grixis getting one over Zoe, also on Grixis. And we talked a little bit before the match, Filipa, about their different builds and the the cards they chose to bring. How impactful do you think this decision to play Saheeli was for Jason?
It looked to me that it ended up turning out pretty well. Like when the board has a lot of creatures, having the only flyers usually is pretty good. And we saw that Saheeli worked really well on Jason's side. And I know Jason knew that Saheeli was going to be a good card in the mirror. Otherwise, I don't believe she would bring it, especially with all the experience that she has gathered from playing the VML and doing so great. So definitely, what a match! We had fantastic games here today.
Yeah, and honestly, both players just played so cagily, so cautiously, so well with the multiple counter spells and making sure everything had protection and all of that. So just really fantastic from both players, and congrats to Jason once again.
Yeah, you have to be really patient to play counter spells against counter spells.
I don't know. I mean, I love playing counter spells, but I would also not describe myself as a patient person. So I don't know. I don't know what the balance there, but I also like decks where you play like Mana Swift Spear and your counter spell is to like not get your Mana Swift Spear killed. So it's a different vibe, I guess. So before we get into our next semifinal, I did promise earlier that we would have some announcements, and we are going to bring you the first piece of new information tonight. There will be more announcements later on, but yeah, thank you, Filipa. But I really wanted to talk about the VML Championship. So the top 8 of this season, they've already qualified for the VML Championships, and the top 8 of seasons 9 and 10 are also going to qualify for the VML Championships. And this is a brand new event that we have come up with for this season and hopefully many seasons to come, where at the end of the year, we're going to have a small field 24-player keystone event, shall we say, and that is going to take place over the course of one weekend. So it's not going to be like a full season. It is going to be more like a traditional 2-day weekend tournament. And what we're going to do is we're going to bring all of that to you live, hopefully. And the dates for that is going to be August 5th to 6th. So it's going to be the weekend after Barcelona for those of you who are keeping count. So that is some new information that I think we haven't announced before. So that keep your eye out, eyes on the prize for VML Championships in August. And the real big thing about the championships, which people did know about, but I think is worth saying, is that there are 2 Pro Tour invites. The top 2 players are both going to make the PT, which is the pinnacle of competitive Magic. That is the dream, right, Filipa? That is why we do this, why we go to these events, why we grind these tournaments, because you want to make the PT dream.
Yeah, and I've been playing Magic for 10 years, and I remember when I started going to GPs, and it was the PT dream, and it felt really alive. So I'm really glad Wizards made the decision to bring the name back of the Pro Tour. I think we all love it.
Yeah, love it.
Yeah, and it's honestly, VML is one of the best opportunities to get that. So making into the championships is a great opportunity. So don't miss out on the next seasons if you haven't made top 8 yet. And even if you did, like, play it again and be fast, because the spots go pretty fast. I'm afraid to not get a spot for the next one.
We will. Well, maybe there'll be a little bit of information later on about that. We don't know. Well, we do know. I know, but everybody else is going to have to stay tuned for info about upcoming seasons. But something else I want to talk about VML Championships, which is that we are working on some really cool stuff. Now, obviously, this is not a hard and fast promise, but as you know, and as I know, there are lots of limited fans in the VML, myself included. It is, Filipa included, and we know that there are lots of limited fans in the tournament, and we've been asked time and time again, when are we going to get limited VML events? And I can tell you that we're working very, very hard to make the VML Championships mixed format. So we are hoping fingers crossed, to be able to bring you a limited and constructed VML champs. Just to whet your appetite, shall we say?
I want it so much. Yes.
It's gonna be so much fun. I'm really hoping to put that together for everyone. And of course, when we do finalize those details, we will be bringing you more news as soon as we have it as well. So let's have a look at the bracket and where we are after that first semifinals. Just remind ourselves of what the top four is looking like. We have Jason Yee making it. Thanks for winning that match over Zoe Carnell. And Jason is going to be going up against a Grixis deck, but who is going to be piloting it? We have Owa and Emma on the bottom half of the bracket. Let's have a look at their decks, Filipa, and maybe we can talk a little bit about the choices that they've made.
Yes, and we are seeing here Owa first. And Owa, let me just take a quick look here at the deck.
I love this one, by the way. This is probably my favorite of the Grixis versions because Owa has just brought some absolute just bangers. 2 copies of Evelyn the Covetous, 3 copies of Wandering Mind in the main, 3 copies of Siphon Insight in the main, and no Invoke Despair. Instead, Owa has gone for 3 copies of Gix's Command.
Yeah, and only 2 Harvester. And I think this is the first time I'm seeing a Grixis deck that only plays 2 Harvesters. So definitely a very different list than what we have seen. Also 2 Brotherhood and main. This is not your typical Grixis mid-range deck. And I really like the Wandering Mind. It's going to be able to do some work. And again, we saw how much Shaylee flying creatures made an impact. And this Wandering Mind is a flyer. So always a good thing to keep in mind. Yeah.
Yeah, no, that's an excellent point because this Wandering Mind, it's 3 mana, 2/1 flyer. And when it comes in, you look at the top 6 cards and you get a non-creature card from them. So you can use it to search up your Fables, you can get your Gix's commands, and you know what? You can, if you get it killed, you can use your Gix's commands to bring it back to your hand and do it all over again.
Yeah, and I'm loving Oa's picture. They are looking really nice.
I love it. This is like the aesthetic is on point, and I am loving it.
Yeah.
Let's have a look at Owa's opponent, and we'll just remind ourselves once again of Emma's deck. We saw Emma in our quarterfinals. She was the featured player there. And, this Grixis midrange deck, Emma did a great job against mono white midrange with it. How do you feel about it in the mirror?
This is much more like your everyday, let's say, Grixis mid-range. Like we have the Invoke Despairs. We don't have Children's, but we have 3 Invoke Despairs. We have all the the Harvesters. I like the Spell Pierce, right? The one off Spell Pierce suddenly seems really good. We have a lot of counter magic, so it's looking pretty good. It's going to be definitely a tight game. I have to say though, most of the creatures that Emma has have 3 toughness or less. So the Brotherhood's end on Owa's side is suddenly looking really nice.
Oh, you make a really good point. Like this, I was thinking, okay, Brotherhood's End, maybe, I was kind of hedging against seeing some aggressive decks, want to cover all the bases coming in. But you're right, this Grixis list, those creatures are pretty small, the ones that they have. So we'll see whether those Brotherhood's Ends do some work as we go down. Hopefully the players are ready. We can line up second semifinals in just a minute. Filipa, what are we watching out for in terms of the big turning points of the games?
Well, obviously Invoke Despair, the Grixis command, like these key cards are really big, but just what we've been seeing today, just being able to keep those counter spells up and avoiding these big threats. And I don't know, like things are looking if I would say I really like both lists, but Owa's list, it's really fun, and I'm excited to see those flyers coming through. But it can go both ways, honestly.
All right, let's have a look at the top 4 match, and you see Owa choosing to draw first because players in the top 8 do get to choose play and draw based on their seeding. And Owa, they're being seated lower than Emma on the draw. Oh no, that's 2 one-land hands for Owa.
Yeah, and if there's one thing that you cannot do much about is when you don't have enough land. And Oa here realizing that they need to keep this end, right? Mulligan to 5 when your opponent already kept a 7 card, it's just setting yourself up for failure. So taking a decision here to either I draw a land or I'm in a bad spot anyway. And it paid off because a land was drawn from Oa and now having access to some relevant spells. But here we see that Emma is already able to do a Fable of the Mirror Breaker. And
Oh
no
no.
second land.
No.
And Emma is going to realize, okay, Owa didn't play a second land. I'm going to take advantage of this as much as I can, right? And
Yeah,
we can see
absolutely,
maybe
yeah.
second Fable entering with a spell pierce being also available.
Oh my goodness. This is not where you want to be if your Owa does find the third land this time. So that is not awful. But here's Fable of the Mirrorbreaker and Emma with the 1 of Spell Pierce, swiping that one away. And so brutal. That is
We saw this
exactly why
coming.
the Spell Pierce is in the deck.
And it was so good. Also, like Emma not having the 5th land, but it doesn't matter because this Fable is going to allow you to look for it. And this Corp
Right.
Appraiser and things just
it's
looking
just
really good. Yeah. And now making mana just always
this
like struggling to get
is
mana.
just, yeah. No, 100%. You're right. Like the power of Fable the Mirrorbreaker really cannot be overstated. I think it just kind of lets these decks, these Grixis decks, get away with it almost. You know what I mean? Like when they have all of this stuff. And here's Wandering Mind for Oa. We were talking about this card before the match started. It's cool, right? It looks great. It gets around a lot of counter spells.
It would be so good if you had kept your mana every turn being able to, but in this case it's just a bit no 3-drop can save you from this, you know.
Yeah, and it certainly cannot save you from this Invoke Despair. That is so much pressure coming from Emma. You've really got to feel for Oa. It's happened to everybody, you know. We've all been there. It's just one of those things that happens in Magic the Gathering. But this is a brutal game at number 1, and Emma's going to close this one up really quickly, Filipa.
And okay, so we know that Emma has a counter spell and make disappear, so available. In this case, the game is over, but that's why we play best of 3, right? It's because of this. We know that some of these games can happen. It's pretty unfortunate, but they happen. So good thing, just brush it off, move on. Don't let it get too much into you because I know it can be frustrating. I know it can even set us up for failure in future games, but we just gotta keep doing our best and just move forward.
Yeah, I mean, you've hit it exactly on the nail, Filipa. Like these matches, these games happen to everyone, and it's really just about picking yourself up afterwards. And you know, if we can do a little bit of damage control here, right? This Abrade is going to take out the new Harvester coming in. It can maybe deal with, or at least hope to deal with, one of these attackers. Although, of course, we know that there is that make it disappear in hand. But it's really not about this game anymore for Oa. They've got to be thinking ahead to the sideboard. They've got to be thinking ahead, how can I bring this one back? We've seen it happen many times in Magic. It is not over yet for Oa as we go to the sideboard after that first game.
Yeah, and cut downs are tempting with so many Blood Harvester, the tokens. Bankbusters going in. Bankbusters we saw like being such an MV card in specific situations. So I'm excited to see keeping the Brotherhood's End so far.
Interesting.
Yeah, and here we have to be knowing that we are on the play, so things might look a bit different.
I think that's a really great point. Like duress, much better on the draw, right? Because like you might have a tap land or whatever it is to play. So your duress, your 1 mana spell, great on the draw, but like something like a 2 mana Reckoner Bankbuster, is just going to do more work for you on the play when you can get it down underneath your opponent's make disappear. So Oa, with those changes, we're going to wait for Emma to finish sideboarding as well until we get down to the battlefield. But Emma is a game up in this Grixis mirror, our second semi-final of the evening. We are going to try and find another finalist here. Emma just has to win one more game. Oa has to complete the reverse sweep. Let's go down to the game and see how this one plays out. And Oa's hoping for a better hand here, and that is a better hand.
That looks pretty much good. You know, you have Negate, you have Fable of the Mirror Breaker, you have 2 Bank Busters. Things are looking good. The rest, though,
I mean, duress is it's something, right? Like, it's going to take away something that's pretty key part of your plan, but this hand is relatively duress proof, shall we say. The Bank Busters are going to draw a lot of cards. You know you're going to resolve one of them, and Emma kind of just has to take the second copy of a duplicate effect.
Yeah, I agree. Here, if you want to have an end that can be duress, this is one of them, and things are now looking so good for Oa. That Fable of Mirror Breaker resolving, and here we see how impactful it is to be on the play in this mirror.
Yeah, look at the difference between the board states, and Emma just has to pass it back. Nothing for the Corpse Appraiser to eat right now. Go for the throat is a possibility, and Fable is gonna maybe do some digging. Looking for lands once again.
Definitely needing a land here, and great, we are able to get it.
That is such a big land for Oa. Just getting that 4th mana and now the 5th mana online, being able to hold up this negate, hold up the Reckoner Bankbuster, and now we're going to maybe see the players get a little bit into that rhythm that we saw earlier with the using their counter spells judiciously, although this is an interesting make disappear because
this is just Emma saying, okay, I have to use this. I have to be able to cast a spell next turn. And now being able to also put Fable.
Wow. Okay, so Fable down on one side for Emma, 2 down for Oa. We're in the realm of a whole library of storybooks. I don't know. Help me, Filipa. The 2 goblins are coming across. The one of them is going to get traded off, but we're going to keep one of them.
Here we can see that stealing a counter from your opponent is just so good, you know?
So good.
It's amazing. And here we see the power of Fable of the Mirror Breaker. Just discarding whatever it's not relevant in this matchup, it makes situational cards so much better because you are able to get those cut downs, those cards that are just good in some specific situations like Brotherhood's End. And if you don't need them, you just discard them with the Fable of the Mirror Breaker.
Here's Blood Tithe Harvester. I was going to let that one go, so that does get to resolve. And in the end step, we're going to see Siphon Insight flashback from the graveyard. Already stole one counterspell. Could be a second one. Could also be go for the throat. Oh.
Well, pierce the one off. I would steal it just for revenge, you know?
Filipa, you took the words right out of my mouth. I also would do the same. This is a great play here from Oa. And, Filipa, I believe on Siphon Insight, your opponent doesn't get to see what cards you stole. So I think that's just a secret that is going to be a surprise later on.
I can take a look here at the card. Let me just get the list, and if I go here and read it, look at the top 2 cards of target opponent's library, exile one of them face down. Yeah, so no reveal there.
Wow, that is so brutal, and I just, oh my goodness, I love it. I love it. Here's go for the throat, and it's time.
Yeah, just out of spite, you know. I would do exactly the same.
Here, okay, Fable does get to flip, and Oa does not have a way of answering that flipped reflections right now.
But it's a it's flipped, that's true, but it takes one turn to be able to do something. And okay, here blood token, maybe trying to get a land to be able to play that, invoke the spare next turn. Okay, we have Corp Appraiser. We know it's going to get countered.
Yeah, this one is definitely going to eat this mate disappear. And Emma is thinking, wow, you stole 2 counter spells from that Siphon Insight. Such good value. The land is going to come in tapped.
We
Are
can
we
do
going
it
to
4
start seeing?
times. Yeah, we
Oh,
can do it. Okay, but not using the
I mean,
treasures.
Owen has to be careful here, right? Because if you let Emma untap with the combo, like that you can lose both of your reflections potentially
Yeah, that's a great point.
to the harvester.
Oh, just going with everything.
I think I respect this attack. Like, just recognizing that you don't have the removal, right? And if you don't make this attack, your opponent is gonna deal with the 2 reflections anyway. But they get to keep their reflection out
Yeah,
of the
but you're
pool.
saying if you're blocking, you're also losing your ability to kind of combo off. So
Right. Yeah.
it's a
Here's
relevant
Wandering
spell
Mind.
for a relevant spell. And we have another Fable of the Mirror Breaker.
Wow.
And still able to use negate. And
Yeah.
here,
These treasures have been so brutal.
yeah, that's why like everyone gotta love Fable of the Mirror Breaker. It takes coffee, it cleans the house for you, it brings you breakfast in the morning, it does it all.
It brings me breakfast in the morning.
Yeah, it does it all. It
Is it gonna
cooks, it
buy me
cleans,
dinner as well?
it
Oh my
buys you dinner,
goodness.
it buys you flowers, like
Oh wow.
everything you
I
ever wanted in one card.
Yeah, that definitely sounds like a fairy story to me. Here comes the Fable of the Mermaker. We don't know which meal it's providing this time round, but it's gonna make sure you're well fed. Here's Wandering Mind is gonna eat in a braid, but I'm loving this Wandering Mind, Filipa. It already found a card, and it's gonna eat a real removal spell.
Yeah, I mean, and here Emma
Wow.
just has to be like, okay, let's go to another one. And here we are able to see a third game, which we always love to see, right? Because
Yeah.
it's these games are so close that make this game interesting. And here we saw how important it is to be on the play. And I'm excited to see how does Hoa sideboard against now on the play. What difference is? I see the cut over the rest. Maybe they're just trying to be more aggressive now on
Actually, I
uh
think it's the other way around. I think Owa is
yeah.
actually going a little bit more like instant speed. We saw 2 copies of Siphon Insight come back in, and then 2 copies of Reckoner Bankbuster out. Plus, that Brotherhood's End came back in as well. So Owa ready to play more of that defensive instant speed game on the draw.
Yeah, it does make sense because always now on the draw exactly. So again,
Oh,
debatable, right? The lands are tricky. Good to know that also Emma doesn't have. I mean, she has a good end, but
yeah. I
yeah,
mean, Emma's hand a little bit reactive, right? Has the Fable, but no 2-drops, no Corpse
yeah. But
Appraiser.
Fable allows you, if it resolves, right? It allows you to
Mm,
discard the irrelevant spells, draw good stuff.
yeah.
It's
Well,
really
Owa.
difficult here for
Oh,
Oa.
I okay. I mean, this one still not great, but better, right? Like this
Yeah,
one, at least you have your Fable in 3. If you find blue mana, this hand is great. But I did not blame Owa for thinking a long time about that one, because that one was tempting. I think if that last hand had a Fable of the Mirrorbreaker in it, you would keep it for sure.
yeah. And here, Oa really needs that blue, but at the same time, Fable being so good and just allow you to. Yeah, and Emma realizes, okay, there's no blue on the other side, so I can just play my Fable. But now Oa plays the Fable. So,
Mm.
oh,
Oh my
there's two
goodness!
more Fable on Emma's side.
Wow,
No
pitching.
words.
Emma's thinking about pitching both of those brotherhoods and maybe pitching the land, hoping to see what she finds. It's Make the Sphere and Go for the Throat. Those are some great pickups from
Yeah,
Fable.
you can draw, right? You can attack, create a treasure token, then play a Fable and keep enough mana for a counter spell, which is exactly what you want to be doing.
So something I want to point out about Evelyn, one of my favorite cards from Streets of New Capenna Limited, you can play her for 2 black. Like, she just straight up is a mono black card if you want. So, I mean, we know Owa now has found the blue mana, so things are going a lot better. But even if Owa hadn't, there was the possibility of playing this Evelyn. Although, of course, for the viewing experience and, of course, for, players being able to develop their boards, we love to see that this blue mana has been found.
Yeah, this card is so good, and we don't see it play enough. I'm so excited that Owa decided to bring it here, and I hope we can see it showcase.
So Fable number 1 is going to flip for Emma. Still has those 2 goblin tokens. They're going to be making treasures.
We saw how much these goblins do, because the ability of making the treasure tokens, it's so relevant in this matchup specifically. Because now Emma is able to put a lot of threats, and Owa can only reply to a certain amount of them. So,
right, here's Bankbuster. That's the first one, right? That is a pretty problematic permanent PPP, as it were. Pretty problematic permanent to get down if you're sitting on Owa's side of the battlefield. Has the negate, chose not to use it, and we'll see what Owa, what their game plan is for this turn.
Okay, and now choosing to letting Fable resolve. Okay, letting Fable resolve here.
Okay. It's going to be Evelyn. I love this. I love it. I mean, obviously, she might not resolve. Emma has the Go for the Throat, the Make This Feel. I absolutely love this card.
But it does resolve, but the Go for Throat, though.
Yeah, unfortunately, we think it's probably not going to get to untap to play any of these cards exiled, but stealing that type, pretty interesting. The best part of Corpse Appraiser, of course, is also a vampire, so would trigger Evelyn again if it made it onto the battlefield. But Evelyn is going to go away to the Go for the Throat.
And for you that don't know, Evelyn is a 2/5 flash that when it enters the battlefield or another vampire under your control, you exile the top card of each player library with a collection counter event on it, and then once each turn you may play a card from exile with a collection counter on it if it was exiled by an ability you controlled, and you may spend mana as any mana to cast it. So a great way to get additional cards.
So actually, if Owa finds their second Evelyn, they can actually play those cards that were exiled by the first one.
Yeah, that's a very good point.
But on the other side of the battlefield, Filipa, I think we're both kind of just staring at this huge number of reflections, and this is giving me, flashbacks to Vintage Cube and dying to Splinter Twin combo.
I gotta love some Kiki-Jiki action, right?
Who doesn't love some Kiki-Jiki action? Here come the goblins. Here come all of the treasures that they're going to be making. And this is a massive board now. We know Owa has 2 copies of Brotherhood's End in the deck, so certainly has the ability to answer this board, but time is ticking down for them to do so.
Yeah, and at this point, Emma not only has the 3rd Fable on the board, also has access to the Bankbuster, allowing to draw cards, so much mana. The Corp Appraiser, there are just so many answers that Emma has to make disappear, that even if there's the Corp Appraiser, the Brotherhood, and I'm not sure if it's quite enough. They're exiling...
they're going for the Evelyn here. I definitely see what you're saying, Filipa. I think even if this board is cleared, there's so much going on for Emma that it's difficult. But we have seen these Grixis decks, make a lot out of just one or two big top decks, right? Like that's kind
Yeah,
of
definitely
one of the
it was
reasons to
not
play
game
this.
over. Now though, it's a different story.
Look at this. Very, yeah, unfortunately. Oh, that's the Blood Type Harvester that was taken from Siphon Insight. So Owa can actually use not red mana to cast it. Really looking for that Brotherhood's End. Wandering Mind, that, it's gonna maybe see it, eat, and make disappear here. Actually, it does not, but that could at least keep Owa alive for another turn or so.
Yeah, but I'm not sure that Kikijiki now can do some serious work. Drawing card with the Bank Buster, invoke Despair.
Oh,
That's exactly what Emma wants to be looking at.
yeah, that is probably looking like the final nail in the coffin here. It's going to be Blood Tithe Harvester potentially. First of all, we've seen that combo with these reflections. We know that it can take care of pretty much the whole board. I think Owa maybe also seeing the writing on the wall here. Copy that, make another blood. It can deal with this stuff. I have to say, I mean, there is almost no better feeling than wiping your opponent's board with these Blood Tithe Harvesters.
This feels pretty good for Emma for sure. And I guess my prediction is going to be correct. There is going to be Grixis on the finals.
Wow. I mean, Filipa, your insight is unparalleled. Maybe I can only hope to siphon some of that from you as we go into the final match, along with Emma, who is going to be our second finalist. Congratulations to Emma winning the second Grixis Mirror in the semifinals with a combination of a bunch of Reflections, Bankbuster, Corpse Appraiser, all of our best friends from Grixis. And congratulations to Owa as well for making it to the top 8 and for bringing this super, super sweet version of Grixis with Evelyn and with Wandering Mind. We'd love to see that.
Really exciting games, really fun. And if there's a way to go, is by so many Kikijiki reflections, right? So nowhere, no better way. And top 4 is already so amazing, such an accomplishment. So congratulations, both of our players. And we're going to have a very exciting finals.
Yeah, certainly we are. And before we do, we are going to go away again for another very short break, just so that we can set up both of our players for the finals. When we come back, we will have further announcements. Yes, that's right. I'm announcing an announcement. And on top of that, we will have, of course, the grand finals for you. Don't go anywhere. We'll see you very shortly. What is up, everyone? For the final time of tonight, welcome back to the coverage of the VML Top 8. My name is Haiyue. I'm here with Filipa. We are sponsored by Wizards of the Coast and Good Luck High Five. Filipa, it's finally time. We've made it to the finals. What have we learned so far this evening?
I've definitely learned that Grixis is good. Grixis equals good. And now, definitely, just jokes aside, I've learned that this deck, and something you were commenting on the backstage here on the booth, is that this is kind of like not one of the boring mirrors, right? Like we had times with the Alden's Epiphany that the mirrors are getting kind of boring, but this one, we can see how the one-offs make the difference. We can see how the skill can be showcased here, and really fun to see how these differences in each deck shine through. And I think we're going to have a very interactive finals here.
Yeah, I completely agree with you. I think that the way that the players have chosen to bring these interesting cards, the Saheelis, the Avalons, the Wandering Minds, really added a different dimension. And we see a lot of technical play, right? A lot of thinking about resources, thinking about the stack, thinking about timing, the sequencing of things. So huge opportunities for players to showcase their talents, their skills, and we've seen that in abundance tonight. So just even before we get into the finals, just a massive round of applause and congratulations to everybody who was in the top 8. Okay, so I promised an announcement, and I have one for you. Before we get into the finals, I know everybody is dying to know. I can now tell you that VML Season 9 is just around the corner. So for those of you who played this season, for those of you who maybe missed out on a spot, or maybe you're new to the VML and you want to check out what it's all about, registration for Season 9 is going to be opening next week. So next week, we believe it's going to be Tuesday at noon Pacific. If you're not following us on Twitter, follow us VMLMTG on Twitter. We will be bringing you information in our Discord as well. So if you're in the Discord, great. If you're not in the Discord, join us by all means, and keep your eyes out for the links to be posted next week, because it is very likely to be Tuesday around noon Pacific. That is generally the time. And for those of you who maybe haven't watched a BML before, the reason I'm saying this is that this season we doubled in size to 128. We were previously 64 players, and we filled the slots in 28 minutes with 128 slots. So, and the wait list was like 250 people long. So just make sure that you keep your eyes peeled for those announcements. But VML Season 9 is coming up. Registration is going to be on Tuesday, we hope. And I can tell you that we are, and these again is not a hard and fast promise, but is like, this is the plan, is for the week 1 of play to be starting. I'm just going to make sure I have it in front of me so that I don't tell you the wrong thing. But I believe it's going to be the 6th of February. So week 1 of play is likely to be the 6th of February. Put that in your calendars. But the first thing, of course, is to make sure you register and get a slot. So next week, we're going to be opening up registration. It's right around the corner. And Filipa, are you going to be ready, waiting?
I'll put an alarm, and I recommend everyone to do the same. Last time I thought, they just announced it. And once I saw, there was like 60 players already, and so many people had to be on the wait list. So if you're really serious about playing the VML, it's a great opportunity. Don't forget, put your alarms and make sure you sign up fast.
Yeah, it is going to be 128 slots again with the same format all the way through this year. So Season 9 coming up. Season 10 is going to be in the spring, summer season as well, before we get to VML Championships later on in the summer. 128 players each season. Make sure you don't miss out.
Really exciting.
Yeah, very exciting. All right, so let's have a look at the bracket once again before we get into the finals. Just remind ourselves, it's going to be Jason. We saw Jason in the first semifinals winning the Grixis mirror over Zoe, thanks to Saheeli Filigree Master, an awesome inclusion by Jason in that deck. And we saw Emma not only winning the semifinals, but we actually saw Emma in the quarterfinals in our first match of the day. And she beat Nora on mono white midrange, a super cool mono white midrange deck, then won the mirror against Oa with those fables and reflections. And now we're going to have Jason up against Emma in the grand finals. Filipa, what are we looking out for?
Well, let me tell you, this is going to be such a great finals. I'm really hyped. I have both deck lists here, and they are different. For example, I see here that one of the lists has two Shieldred, the other one has no Shieldreds. And I've seen this trend where players are not bringing Shieldreds a lot. So it's going to be interesting to see how that plays off. Again, the Spell Pierce is going to be really fun to see how it plays through. We saw it be so impactful in several games. So I'm really curious to see, because Jason plays around everything. But
Yeah,
can you imagine now Jason having to play against a Spell Pierce?
I'm so excited to see. Let's just remind ourselves very quickly of the deck list again before we get down into it. We're going to have a look at Jason's first, and it is, as you said, the creature base, pretty standard, has the Harvesters, the Appraisers, 2 copies of Shieldred in the main, 2 copies of Saheeli, the innovation, should we say, that Jason has brought to this VML top 8. And let's have a look once again at Emma's deck as well. And yeah, there it is. Grixis midrange, 4 copies of Invoke Despair. Is that right? 4 copies? No, 3 copies for Emma. Yeah, 3 copies of Invoke Despair. 1 copy of Spell Pierce. That card has done a lot of work. Emma has done, really used everything in the deck to full capacity, right? Used Braids a lot today. Spell Pierce is being keyed. That one Brotherhood's End has done a lot of work for Emma as well. So we will see whether Emma is able to get there or whether Jason is going to take this one down. If the players are ready, I think we can go down to the action. I think
let's support our players. Let's give some emotes in the chat. Let's
come on. Let's hear some hype. Yeah, let's get some hype. I wanna hear your predictions, chat. I wanna see what you think of these awesome players as we go down to the action. Opening hand here for Jason, who we are going to have on the bottom half of the screen. Cut down, Corpse Appraiser, Fable. Just bread and butter hand.
Really, really good end here by both players. Definitely both of them having potential for a long game. Brotherhood's End, again, another card that Emma has been playing and has been showing to be really fun. So let's see if we are going to see it play. And here we already have Fable of the Mirror Breaker, and unfortunately Jason doesn't have a way to deal with it, but Cut Down is going to help at least avoid Emma getting that snowball where she's able to start attacking with the 2/2s and making treasures and get so much mana advantage.
So Fable on both sides of the battlefield, though. Jason able to resolve that as well. And look, this is why they call it a mirror match, right? Because Emma...
Is it case to say that it's a mirror breaker?
Oh my goodness.
No, I'm sorry. I apologize.
No, never apologize, Filipa. I'm loving this. Maybe the Mirror Breaker is the second one, though. That is going to hit the battlefield. No counter spells just yet for either player. Here's Shieldred for Jason. And how does that change things?
Well, here we know that it's not going to change too much because Emma does have that Gopher Throat that is able to deal with Shieldred even before the damage goes through. So it's interesting to see what Jason decides to do. These Corp Appraisers are definitely have a lot of potential, but maybe Jason deciding to get rid of one of them.
There aren't really any creatures at the moment, I believe. And oh wow, Jason's going to go with no changes. So keeping the whole hand there. Shieldred is going to come down. And luckily now Arena does have that automatic stop in the upkeep if your opponent has a Shieldred. So Emma is going to get to take care of it before it can do any damage. Oh my goodness.
I'm excited to see
Oh
this.
my goodness. Emma has, obviously both players playing 4 copies. Emma has just been absolutely incredible with finding these fables. They've done so much work for her already tonight. And it's actually going to be Corpse Appraiser this time, but there's a lot going on now that Jason would have to deal with.
Yeah, and your fables, let's be honest, you play with 4 of them, right? They are bound to show up. It's likely that we are going to see a lot of fables. And they are definitely one of the main reasons these decks play red, because without Fable of the Mirror Breaker, you wouldn't necessarily bring Blood Harvester, right? Because one of the good things about the Harvester is that you can copy it with the Kikijiki reflection. And here we have Invoke Despair, which is good, but
look, so Jason has this Invoke Despair, right? Obviously, she drew the second one, which is fantastic, but also she got rid of the second reflection, so no infinite, quote unquote, infinite reflections for now. And Jason has the Blood Tithe Harvester in hand, so if she untaps with this reflection, can start using these Blood Tithe Harvesters to take care of the board. So Jason is not in that bad of a spot, and Emma now does have the last Fable, but otherwise just treading air with 2 lands in hand.
Yeah, and maybe thinking of not playing that to be able to discard it next turn. So here a big decision, because if Emma decides to play it, she's going to be able to copy the Appraiser, right?
Right. Yeah, so, and you see Emma checking the graveyards, just seeing if there is, if there's a reason, should we say, to copy this Appraiser?
Yeah.
Oh. Hello.
Okay, getting a mana.
Okay, all right. So it's a big attack. And getting more mana, which has been very, very good for Emma, until now. But Jason has the 6th land, has 2 Appraisers of her own, as well as this Harvester. This could be a big turn for Jason.
It can be, for sure. And now being able to do the Appraiser and also copying the Harvester. So Harvester needs to kill that.
It needs to kill the reflection, right?
Yeah, that's what I think. But here I think Jason is even considering getting rid of the Appraiser. And Jason doesn't do something by chance.
No, Jason is very, very deliberate. Each decision is thought out very carefully.
Because
killing the Appraiser.
Yeah, because this way Jason can appraise can exile the creature, the Corp Appraiser, and get a card. It all makes sense now.
It really does all make sense now. Such tight plays from Jason, recognizing, if you draw a Blood Tithe Harvester, it's bad, right? Like, bad things can happen, but just being able to get another card out of this turn, and all of a sudden, oh, wow. I could not even finish that sentence before Emma pitches 2 lands and finds a copy of Invoke Despair.
That's a card you'd like to see.
So, what's it going to be?
It's a difficult decision, but Appraiser and...
Wow, and that's a Reckoner Bankbuster as well.
Yeah, already one in the board, so maybe just choosing to draw. Yeah. And we draw here a Braid.
Wow. Okay, so Emma has some choices. Could make another token. Jason's life total, by the way, getting pretty low. Emma has been very good all evening. We've seen in all of her matches, made sure to keep the pressure up, and that has served her well. And now we're going to see these 2 goblins come across, and a Braid is going to take care of
and that's what these goblins are amazing, making the mana. And suddenly Jason is at 5 life. And
there's a Reckoner Bankbuster on the battlefield.
Yeah.
With 4 power.
Let's see. is that Invoke Despair enough? That's the question.
So here it is, Invoke Despair. That's going to get rid of one of the creatures, which is going to be the Goblin. The Fable that has not flipped. Jason finds a land, which is relevant.
Yeah, so here... really difficult decisions.
So difficult. Jason. Okay, so if she plays this Harvester, she's shields down, right? And I think she has to take at least 1 damage to do it.
Yeah, and it's not ideal. But the other option is keeping the Make Disappear, but you don't even have a creature to casualty, so it's just making
right, like
Emma
what is that doing for you?
And Emma does have so much mana.
Right. I think Jason playing around something like another Invoke Despair, like the Make Disappear can at least just ask questions about that. But Emma just has the Bankbuster. And look at this. If Jason had played out the Harvester, it would not have gone well.
Yeah. So obviously Jason's expertise paying off here. And do we want to use a blood token?
I think for me, personally, the Make Disappear has diminishing returns at this point, but this Corpse Appraiser is coming down. It's going to get another card.
Okay, now we're talking.
Go for the Throat, interestingly, does not kill a Bankbuster. It does kill the Reflection.
Yeah, which already helps a bit.
Mm-hmm. And Jason could also play this Blood Tithe Harvester as well, assuming they have enough life to do so.
Yeah, but we know the issue is that Emma is full of cards now, drawing with the Bankbuster and creating the 1/1 that now can crew one of the Bankbusters.
Yeah, this is so much pressure now. Emma drawing a bunch of lands. Unfortunately, like that's not what you want to see off the top of your Emma, but she's so close to the finish line in this game at number 1. Go for the Throat, targeting the Corpse Appraiser. These Make Disappears are not going to do anything about that. Jason counting up the damage. That Pilot is going to jump in the Bankbuster. Reflection can even
and that's going to be it.
Yeah, that's, I think Jason going to play it out, but that looks like it to us for game number 1. And that is going to, we think, at least if this attack gets through, and there it is, potentially going to go the way of Emma. Yeah, that Go for the Throat, it can deal potentially with this Fable, but the Bankbuster is big enough on its own. So Emma is going to be the one to get ahead in our grand finals here. She's going to go a game up in the Grixis Mirror. And wow, that was some great stuff there from Emma's deck.
Yeah, for sure. But now it's going to be more difficult to keep this pressure being on the draw, Emma. And Jason might want to rethink what she's doing here, right? Being on the play, maybe reevaluating strategy. We see again one of the cards these players have been bringing on the mirror. We've been seeing over and over again. Is this sideboard that they have bringing. I'm just looking for the name of the card. I'll get there. Siphon Inside. Okay.
Yeah. No, you're completely right. That card has been so impressive, stealing each other's counter spells all night. And we do see 2 copies of it in for Jason. Jason's going to have to do some hard work here if she wants to take home the title here, because she is a game down looking at this sideboard. But we know Jason, very accomplished player. Emma also very, very, very skilled and talented competitor on the other side of the battlefield. What's going to happen?
And I think Emma went undefeated in the division play. I might be incorrect, but
yeah, you're right. Emma went 7-0 in division play. So we've talked about it before. That is a huge accomplishment.
Undefeated.
undefeated. And maybe Emma will be undefeated all the way to the end. This hand certainly not looking like it's going to help Jason a lot, but wow, this 6 is much better.
Yeah, definitely paying off the mulligan there. But I really want to see what Emma has, because this end, if there's a counter for the Fable, it gets completely switched. And there's no counter yet.
There is no counter yet. There's a cut down. There's Blood Tithe Harvester. There's a Fable. So Emma has a pretty nice curve of spells. Both players with copies of Invoke Despair going. No counter magic for either player though. And Emma on the draw is potentially going to get to resolve this Blood Tithe Harvester, but Jason is going to have the way clear to resolve Fable first.
Yeah, but Emma does have the cut down. But if Emma decides to cut down, then she's not able to play the Fable. And this is where these matchups get so many decisions. You can always use a Blood Harvester to kill the 2/2. Is it worth it though? I mean, you might want your opponent to avoid your opponent to being able to invoke Despair next turn.
Yeah, and I think, that is the play that Emma is probably considering. Jason having a little read. Yep, it's 2 times the number of blood tokens. So that Harvester is going to be able to shoot down the Goblin. It is sorcery speed though, so Emma would have to decide to do it right now.
Yeah, and I think this is very well played by Emma, acknowledging if that attacks, then Jason is able to clearly play Invoke Despair. And although there's not a clear answer for Shieldred, there kind of is, right? Because you have to attack with your 2/2, you're going to lose your 2/2, but then you're able to play the Invoke Despair. And here, Emma taking the damage.
Yeah. Well, she knows, right? She knows she's going to get to do the Invoke Despair this turn. Goblin's going to attack. I think Jason maybe sees the writing on the wall as well. There's only one reason you would send this into the
It can also be Brotherhood's End. And in that case, I wouldn't block, right? You have to think there's 2 options, right? And I think that's why Jason was considering. But yeah, here we are going to have the...
Makes a lot of sense. But here is the Invoke Despair. That's going to take care of Shieldred. That's going to take care of Fable. No 5th land for Jason, but does find a second copy of Fable. Now, in the first game, we saw Emma ride multiple Fables to victory. Yeah. Is Jason going to be able to do the same here?
It's looking really good for Jason if she's able to draw another land. But the thing is here is that these Corp Appraisers are going to start getting some advantage on Emma's side. Emma needs a land as well, right? And no land was obtained. So here missing the 5th land was crucial, and it gives Jason a window of opportunity. And there's the land. So Jason now being able to deal with the board.
Yeah, and Jason doesn't even have to suicide this Goblin to do it. Just straight up has the 5 mana. Here's the Invoke. Get rid of that Fable. Get rid of Corpse Appraiser.
It didn't get Corpse Appraiser because it chose to, and previously Jason chose, for example, to have the creature and also the reflection being dying because there was a Fable on the board. But in this case, might as well take 2 damage, let the opponent draw, but at least you keep a good board.
So Emma is down to 9. I think those lands have been pretty painful, taken some amount of damage, and of course there's the Invoke as well. Fable is going to flip for Jason, although, Emma does have that Blood Tithe Harvester.
But now we have Invoke Despair, and we can see how these Invoke Despairs are getting more and more harmful, with Emma now going down to 5.
I mean, is this just a 5 mana burn spell at this point?
Yeah. And it allows you to draw cards, which is also pretty good.
Yeah, pretty sweet indeed. Jason deciding not to attack did have a think about it because Emma could block with that Bankbuster, but it would give Jason an extra mana to leave up for negate. Ultimately, decided not to.
Yeah, I can see both plays. And making option to combo next turn and win is very tempting. And I'm not sure, like, we know that Emma has the Abrade, but I don't think it will be enough against all the things that Jason has, and Emma being on 5. But it's going to be tight. Honestly,
it's definitely going to be tight because Emma has 2 bank busters. That's another potentially 6 cards. So we could be going deep here in game number 2. Jason down a game, Emma up a game. Jason really needs to win this one and force a decider if she wants to stay alive in the tournament. It's going to be an attack in with the Goblin this time. And that is a huge hand, though, that Jason has.
yeah, and being able to play...
hello.
Just going for killing the artifacts.
Love
Destroy every
this
artifact with mana. Yeah, we always forget there's a second ability of the Brotherhood's End, and there it is.
Wow, love that. So got rid of the Bank Buster, got rid of those blood tokens as well. Now, of course, we know Emma has 2 more Bank Busters. Jason does not know that, and is able to get down a Bank Buster of her own.
And it's tempting to play the Invoke Despair, but the truth is that if Emma does it, she's going to be dead next turn. So really calm, composed here, playing the Corp Appraiser, making multiple threats, being able to get Harvester now.
Here is Harvester. Joining its vampire friend, the 2 down on the battlefield for Emma. Back over to Jason, who has the Bank Buster with 3 counters, has Fable ready to go, has a negate in hand. That could be pretty key if you're thinking about the next few turns.
Yeah, and this end looks really good. Having the negate just has to make you feel a bit more comfortable.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, it's just, what can your opponent do, right? Like, Invoke is really the best thing they can do, and you have that line of defense against it.
Yeah, Invoke is not enough. And when Invoke is not enough to save you, you know you're in bad trouble.
Okay, here it is.
There, and I think we're going to have a game number 3.
Oh, there it is. Emma scoops it up. Jason evens things up here in our finals. And there is high drama here as we go to the decider. That was a great game, Filipa.
Yeah, and land off. First thing that Jason does. Okay, now I'm on the draw. Let me take this land off.
That's some limited player nonsense. That is a very draft format thing to do, I think. I mean, I do that a lot in limited, so I love it. And then think about the rest afterwards.
Yeah, and I think mainly keeping the rest as it is.
Yeah, not too many differences. We have seen some other players, I think, make a big change on the play and draw, considering how many copies of Bankbuster they want, how many copies of Siphon Insight they want. But Jason, I think, relatively happy, it seems, with the configuration after the first sideboard, and happy to continue that into the 3rd game.
Really
here we go
to see here how things are going to play.
All right, let's have a look at the opening hands for both of our players in the final game of the championship match here.
Good end for both players.
Oh, yeah, you're right. Jason has 2 counters and Shieldred and Brotherhood's End, but Emma has 2 duresses.
Yeah, what Emma is lacking is a 3rd land.
Oh, that's a good point. So could double duress this turn take care of both of these counter spells right now? And that leaves Jason with yeah. And that leaves Jason with just Shieldred and Brotherhood's End and no follow-up play.
But no land there. And now we have our own duress.
Okay, so Jason finds duress as well. Is going to get full information by looking at Emma's hand. Now, Jason, of course, already knows that there was
the Fable. But
didn't even hesitate.
Yeah. But now Jason knows that there is the Go for Throat that Emma can play. So maybe Bloodthirst Harvester better than Shieldred to play in this situation. And here we can just play a cycle land, and we can use the blood token to get rid of the other land, try to get a more valuable
Wow.
spell per se.
That is also a great draw there for Emma. A braid, meaning that she can save that go for the throat for the Shieldred that she knows about, while still taking care of this Blood Tithe Harvester.
Yeah, and here they have opposite problems.
Yeah,
But-
this is kind of interesting.
But if Emma gets eventually the land, like after that is only a matter of time with so many bombs, right?
Oh, but that's not the land again. That's Fable of the Mirror Breaker. And you
Okay,
know,
and that's a spell that
Holy
Jason really needed.
Corpse Appraiser, just every time when you see that come off the top, is exactly what you want. Reckoner Bankbuster, a great find offer for Jason as well.
Yeah,
now, normally we say screw beats flood, but I don't know. This Jason is very far ahead on board now.
Yeah, and that a braid being used in the blood harvest at the time made sense instead of go for throat, but now we are going to pay for it because we don't have the braid.
You've got to feel for Emma. This is just not the scenario you want it to be in. The deciding game of the finals, having been undefeated to this point in the tournament, just not finding the lands.
And
there it
there's
is.
the lands.
Okay.
A little too late, but negate cannot go through appraiser, so this appraiser is going to resolve.
And but no creatures to appraise.
Yeah.
Wow. So appraiser comes down. That's going to be able to stem the bleeding a little bit. But now Jason has the Shieldred, has the negate to protect Shieldred from the go for the throat. I believe Jason knew about the go for the throat from the duress earlier on.
And Jason here not even attacking, recognizing that Emma has another appraiser, so and negate.
Wow. Snap that one off. Wants to keep the Shieldred. If Emma wants to draw out of this, you know, she's going to have to draw multiple cards with that Reckoner Bankbuster, with Fable of the Mirror Breaker potentially.
But
and
those
Jason,
cards have a cost associated, and Emma is at 11 life.
Yeah. So Jason really keen on protecting that Shieldred.
And now that cycle land, it's better than a regular land, obviously. And this Fable of the Mirror Breaker is going to flip.
Wow.
And look at the amount of value this Bankbuster gave us.
Honestly, I love Reckoner Bankbuster. It's such a cool card, such a great design. Like, huge, you know, congratulations, I guess, for play design for making this card. Shieldred is going to come in. Emma's going to fall to 7. Here comes another Fable. And I mean, it's heartbreaking for Emma in the final game. She's going to scoop it up. Jason Yee is your new VML champion. Congratulations so much to Jason. Incredible stuff. And of course, commiserations to Emma. You know, it was a fantastic run, undefeated through round robin, undefeated through the bracket until now. And Emma played incredibly well. A little bit unfortunate in that last game, of course, with the lack of land drops. But congratulations to Jason. Wow.
I knew the moment that Jason eliminated me in the top 32. This is a player people need to look for because, as I said before, Jason did it in a way that I didn't even stood a chance, you know? It was just like, oh, it was that easy. She probably was like, damn, Filipa, that is an easy opponent. And Jason, over and over again, doing such a great job here in the VML. Congratulations to our winner.
Yeah, that is a huge achievement to win a season of the VML. It is not difficult, not easy, right, to get through this tournament. Like, it sounds like, okay, you're playing 7 rounds and then you're playing a top 32. It sounds like a normal tournament, except you're playing the 7 rounds split over 7 weeks, and then you're playing a different player in the top 8 each week. Like, it's a huge undertaking to make it this far and to win the whole thing. Congratulations to Jason, our champion. Wow. Okay, so GG's to everybody. We, I think, potentially are going to be able to get Jason up for an interview. I don't know that that's possible. We will check with production. Okay, we're gonna go for a 1 minute break and then we'll have an interview with Jason after the break because I think we really want to be hearing from our winner. I want to hear about this Saheeli in the deck for sure.
Same.
We'll be back in just a minute. Don't go anywhere. Okay, hello, congratulations to Jason. I definitely didn't already do a much better congratulations. Jason, how does it feel to win your season of the VML?
Very, very good. I this has been a lot of fun, and I've really enjoyed like getting into constructed testing with other folks, and yeah, just a lot of fun, and I'm glad to like have had this opportunity.
Tell us about the Saheelis.
Oh, the
We're dying
Saheelis.
to know.
So the Saheelis are because they're just good in the matchup because Grixis is like kind of weak to flyers. Like there's a bunch of ground blockers, right? The board gets gummed up. There's like bank busters and like there's 3/2s and 3/3s, but like there's nothing that really flies in Grixis unless you're playing Wandering Mind, which is another pretty good tech piece, I think. But like the 2/1/1s really help with like pressuring in the air, and like it can get into those like tempo-y, swingy races. And also it lines up pretty well against Invoke Despair because like your opponent can cast Invoke Despair against your Saheeli. You know, you lose your Saheeli, you lose a 1/1, and they draw a card. But like that's about as good as you're gonna get against Invoke Despair. So like you still get a 1/1 left over, and you don't lose that much life. They don't draw that many cards, so it's pretty nice.
how, having played, I think this is your first season of the VML. Is that right, Jason?
This is my first.
How would you tell us about the experience of like doing division play and round robin and week by week having to figure out what you're doing?
Yeah, the division play was like really, really fun, really interesting. Like I I did a lot of like teching against what my opponents had brought in the previous week and trying to like switch up every single week to not like have that happen to me in reverse. And yeah.
Levels above levels above levels.
Indeed.
Are you excited to be the VML championship? And are you going to a regional championship? Are you excited for these finals that we are having? Because now you have a chance to qualify for the Pro Tour. It's pretty exciting, right?
Yeah. I've never really like had a chance to like do much competitive Magic because the limited competitive scene isn't that good. But yeah, I'm really excited to like get into that and like to participate in VML champs and also go to the RC.
And where do people can find you? Like, do you have any social media where you post your decks, or do you stream, or Twitter, anything where people can find you? And if they want to know more about the decks you're playing and your cool limited decks, because I know you're a pro in that format.
I'm basically Jason ILTG everywhere, like on Twitter, on Twitch, on Discord, and yeah, I stream very occasionally and tweet also occasionally.
Aren't you in a podcast?
No, I've like guested on some
You
limited
guested,
podcasts
okay.
before, but I don't have a podcast myself.
Well, you should get one. I mean, so full background is that Jason and I played a full box team sealed together at GP Vegas, at Magic 30 in Vegas. I literally can't let go of GPs in my life. And it was super fun, and Jason is a fantastic limited player and now fantastic constructed player as well. So congratulations once again, Jason. Thank you for joining us. Thank you so much, Filipa, for being here with me today. I hope you've had a blast. How can people find you in the world?
Well, Filipa MTG is the way. You can find me there on Twitter, and then you have all my socials there. I play in all VMLs, which I really love, at least all that I can. And what about you? Where people can find you?
You can find me at Nifette, Niphettee. I'm on Twitter mostly with just lukewarm takes about Magic and cat pictures mostly. and otherwise, though, I will really, really recommend everybody, please check out the VML Twitter. Follow us for news about season 9, which is going to be coming up next week. Next week, registration is going to be opening, so follow us on Twitter. Join the Discord. Follow us here on Twitch. Any subs, any stuff like that goes towards back into the organization and helps make all of this stuff possible. And that leads us into a great segue because we have to thank our awesome sponsors. Thank you to Wizards of the Coast for making this possible. We work very closely with them, and we are very, very grateful that they have taken the steps, should we say, to support our community, and they believe in the mission, and they want to, they give us the invites in particular, which really help us try to realize that dream that we have that Caroline always talks about, where we want to just walk into a room of a competitive event or of any Magic event and not have to think about gender. Like, we just want to walk in and be like, okay, this is just like anywhere else, right? We don't want that overwhelming, like, oh my God, it's so imbalanced here. So that is what we're working towards, and we want to give a huge shout out to Wizards of the Coast for supporting us. And a huge shout out to Good Luck High Five, who are one of our regular sponsors of the seasons. That is a podcast hosted by the awesome Maria Bartoldi and Megan Wolf. One of the most fun podcast pieces of content in all of Magic. They do songs, they do just all sorts of awesome stuff. And Maria, obviously, one of my idols, one of the best in commentary that we have known. So massive shout out to Megan and Maria from Good Luck High Five. And thank you, of course, to all of our players who participated in Season 8. Thank you to the awesome team behind the scenes, everybody who's done graphics, who's casted this season, who's done social media, who does everything. Like, so much work goes into the VML. Thank you to everybody. And the huge, of course, shout out to Phoebe, without whom these broadcasts would just not be possible. She is self-taught. She literally started with us in season 1 and has just, the way that the stream is now is just amazing. So huge shout out to Phoebe.
Thank you.
Wow.
Grixis. I mean, Haiyue.
That was
Thank you.
a lot of thanks, but I'm sure you'll agree, everybody, well deserved. Thank you for joining us for this season of the VML. That was VML Season 8. Congratulations once again to our winner, Jason Yee. Fantastic. And we will see you in not that long for Season 9. So we'll see you next time here on the VML.